This is the Art of Darkness podcast with Kevin Kautzman.
And Brad Kelly. We're a couple of very online writers interested in the dark side of what drives creative people to create against all odds.
This show is about art and the people who make it, what it costs them, and what it takes to bring something unique and impactful into the world.
Each episode, we excavate the life and work of an artist you might think you know.
Don't worry, they're all safely dead.
On every episode, we try and find out just what the hell was wrong with them and how they worked through their darkness to create something that lives on after them and continues to move culture.
Find us online at artofdarkpod.com and on Twitter at artofdarkpod.
I'm assuming you can hear me in the spaces.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and this is a very special episode of Art of Darkness, the podcast about the dark side of creativity. We have Dexter Paz here. Dexter, you have a podcast called the Scarlet Thread Society. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And he's part of the Great Timeline Earth Collective.
Yes.
And he's the true heir of Art Bell.
There we go. That's the important one right there.
That's right. He's the man. I'm super excited about this.
I'm really excited. We've got Minnesota here, Kevin Kautzman. We've got the Keg of America, Wisconsin, Dexter. And then we got Michigan. So we're spanning the upper Midwest. And we are actually live streaming this in our first Twitter Spaces. So we'll see if we get any turnout there, but kind of excited. And then we're recording this. And then Dexter is also going to release this under his podcast. So it's a joint effort. And it's the first time we're gonna stream or watch together simultaneously. We're gonna simulcast a film. Of course, everyone knows the great classic Stanley Kubrick movie, 2001. Bum, bum, bum. A Space Odyssey. I am so excited. I can't wait. This idea came to the three of us, and we just thought, let's do it. We've already covered Kubrick on Art of Darkness. You can go back and listen to Kubrick. We've yet to do Arthur C. Clarke. We're definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
And we have the Chelsea Hotel.
Yeah, which is where this thing was born, where it gestated, where it was given life. Yeah. So you could say the Chelsea Hotel is the monolith.
It is.
You could say anything.
I wouldn't.
The reason I said this is I did a lot of listening to various other people talking about 2001: Space Odyssey over the last week, and there is a lot of speculation about what the monolith is, and so it's just funny to me. Like, anything is the monolith. This cup of coffee is the monolith. Yeah.
Well, and really, that is one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting part of the film too, right? What is the monolith?
What is it? Yeah.
To the point where you could just make a meme of it like that. And I'm sure everyone's got their pet answer.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we'll see the way it manifests a couple different times in the movie, and we'll have our chance to throw noodles at the wall and see what sticks.
Well, we typically start, and I hope, Dexter, it's all right if we stick to the format we're used to for our show. I hope that's okay. We usually start with a question, which is, what do you know about XYZ artist? But I think in this case, we can ask Dexter, what do you know about the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey?
I know that it's a absolute classic. I know that it's made by one of the masters, and I know that I have seen it several times throughout my life, but not so recently as after I started to really get woke to symbolism in film. So, being familiar with it, but not being familiar with the deeper tones, I'm going into this with fresh eyes, as it were.
Excellent. Hey, Dex, I just noticed real quick before we get in the movie, you are actually muted in the spaces. Sorry for that. There's a little technical
difficulties there. There you go. Now
there you go. Cool. Good.
All right.
So that was recorded in the episode, but not.
That'll be out on the episode. Okay. There you go. All right.
That's what we got on demand for anyways.
Yeah, exactly. We're all good. Okay.
Well, and so for people listening who are not listening live, and I guess for the guys listening live, if you want to screen 2001: A Space Odyssey along with us, we're going to start it simultaneously. I'm going to find the moment in the first few minutes of the film where I'm going to say pause. We're all going to make sure we're synced. Then we're going to press play again, and it's going to be like it's 1978. You're in your parents' basement. You're getting a little high, and the second time the lion roars, you play Dark Side of the Moon, and you play it together, and there you go, off to see the wizard. So this should be fun. And the idea behind this episode is that we're going to sort of rap about Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke and the making of the movie and little bits and bobs that we know. We've got a little bit of an outline. It's not really a Mystery Science Theater thing. We're not trying to lampoon the movie. It's more about sort of using it to open up a discussion. And Dexter's very interested in symbolism in film. Brad and I did our Kubrick episode already, so I think it's going to be fun. It's an experiment. So you all ready to press play? Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Blast off. And of course, Brad pointed out already that how funny it is because the beginning of the movie is just literally has just this dark humming black.
Right. Yeah. So good luck finding a spot to sync that up. But it is there. There is something about starting with this black, and then it's just that like one single note, that murr. And it is definitely, imagine 1968. You get into the movie theater. You know, Kubrick's last movie was Dr. Strangelove. You're not really sure what you're in for, but you know, your cousin's buddy saw it somehow and says, this is the craziest movie you've ever seen. You get in, you are baked out of your mind on Mexican brickweed.
Yes.
And then it's just black. And this noise is happening to you.
Your one buddy doesn't like to smoke, but he's drank a whole thing of Robitussin. He's ready to rock. He's not driving. You know the guy.
Yeah, so we're like a minute in. It is still
Are we
black.
watching? Okay, no. See, I have a different cut, so it's still black.
Uh-oh.
You get the no, go. So we're gonna pause the film because I'm already hearing. Is it Strauss? Also sprach Zarathustra.
Yeah, it is also sprach the earth Zarathustra to start.
Yeah. So when it comes to say, I feel so left out. You guys are in Stanley's waiting room, and I'm already in the movie.
Yeah.
A Stanley Kubrick production. When it says that, press pause.
Okay.
It's got to be coming up. I'm a minute 40 in.
I'm at a minute 38.
Okay.
So.
This is riveting radio.
It is. It's fantastic.
Just sitting.
Well, it's fascinating the way he's using this to prime us, right? Movies don't do this anymore.
Right.
He's screwing with my head already, honestly.
Well, it's like a womb. The cinema is like a social womb. You're in the theater. You're all together. You're sitting in the dark. You start to feel that kind of strange tingle. You're like the monkeys later in the cave where they're hiding. They're hiding against the dark. Ooh. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Yeah, he's messing with you. I have a couple of fun kind of personal anecdotes about this that should be good. One of my buddies, this old timer in Manhattan, actually worked on the film.
Oh, really?
As a special effects guy. Yeah, I think I've mentioned that before. So I think I'll probably talk a little bit about that. Well, why not? I guess. Well, let's wait until we get to the models because I know he worked on the models. And he hated Stanley Kubrick.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Just couldn't stand working with him?
Yeah, he said he was impossible because this is like a journeyman special effects guy. This guy worked on the on Rosemary's Baby, you know, when the woman falls to her death on the love bug. He talked about having to go get pig's blood to create that effect and all of this. So he was a working film guy. And what he said was, you know, Kubrick was exactly what you would expect from him. Total control freak, total perfectionist. And he said that without fail at 8 o'clock in the morning, Stanley would call and he would give them an ear beating for 90 minutes when they were working. Yeah. And so I would pick his brain about it. He goes, I hate him.
Okay. Now I've got the planet, the sun coming up over the earth, over the moon.
Okay. Moonrise.
Okay.
Yep.
And
when it says,
here.
Okay.
I don't know why I got the junk version, but whatever. You know what I'll do later?
You got gypped, man. You're missing.
I'm going to turn all the lights out tomorrow or tonight and just sit in the dark for 2 minutes.
Make up
longer than I usually do. All right.
Okay, Metro Goldwyn Mayer presents.
Yeah. Metro, Goldwyn, and Mayer.
Yeah, all three of them.
Yeah, this is going to be good, guys.
A Stanley Kubrick production.
Boom. Pause it. Pause that sucker. Okay. Anybody listening along, whether you're listening live or you're listening later, if you want to, I think the episode's going to be fine if you know 2001. You don't have to screen along to
It's
enjoy
not like a frame by
whatever.
frame analysis.
Yeah. I mean, and our episodes are 3 hours long anyway, so you're gonna feel right at home.
We have a patient audience. Yeah.
Indeed, yes. All right. Well, but when it says a Stanley Kubrick production, press play, and we'll go on three, fellas. Ready? 1, 2,
2, 3.
Okay, I gotta mute it because it's what an incredible that music, so iconic. What a pick!
Yeah,
and you just
and you have to start to think: are there some, thus sprach Zarathustra? I mean, that's Wagner, right? That's Wagner inspired by Nietzsche, right?
I don't know that it's Wagner.
Works.
I think it's
Strauss inspired by Nietzsche, right? So you got to wonder what is Kubrick trying to say.
Well, I think he's talking about the birth of the Übermensch, the birth of the future man. I think is really what he's signaling at here, right? And of course, we begin on the ancient plains.
So it's so good
in this scary time.
It's so good.
This is what it was like to go to a public school in North Dakota in the 80s.
That's what it looked like.
The dawn of man.
Dude, this is like he does this so well, but this is like a trope. If you've seen Adaptation, that film, there's like a joke when he gets stuck writing and then he goes in this manic phase and he goes back to the beginning of time. And it's like, that's a joke. Like there's something about there's almost a pretension that every writer, I think, comes up with a story idea that's like, I'm going to go back to the beginning. We're going to start at the,
Well, but you're making a great point, right? Because this film begins at the beginning. You have the moonrise, and then we really do go back to the dawn of all time. And the cinematography is staggering. You could or actually, this whole section just reminds me of Quanasquatsi. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Just put some boo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo Philip Glass music behind this. I could watch this for 90 minutes after some Robitussin.
Yeah. Well, and this is like, I'm going to give some production notes about this that I know about as we go, but don't expect me to know everything by any means. But one of the things, not in these shots, I mean, he sent a B team out to shoot these like National Geographic style, these set pieces. But when we get into where we're actually looking at the Australopithecus or whatever creatures, it was actually done in this technique that had never been done on that scale. It was actually front projection. So they were projecting these background images that they'd shot onto glass, and the monkeys were actually in front of it, but because of the contrast, the light didn't actually show up on the monkeys. Nobody had ever really done that before, and that's why it looks so. It has a particular look that to me is a little bit hard to define, but it's very sharp. It kind of looks like a set, but.
Right.
Fascinating.
I would not even know what to call it, but it's man, you really don't see anything like this.
No. And it's everything is in the exact same amount of focus too, right? I mean, not that that's unique to this film at all, but
there's something surreal about this. There's something and it's all intentional. He doesn't
I think that's exactly the word for it, is surreal.
Yeah. There's a dreamlike quality, because I think this is all, I mean, part of this is like part of this is like, this stuff is sort of embedded in the human subconscious, right? You don't have to go that far to think that we have like ancestral memories of this sort of scene.
Yeah, right? The Evo psych people out there would say that it's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with them. Yeah, I think a lot of
and there comes the leopard. Oh no,
that's a guy in a monkey suit, and Kubrick let this leopard just. You know what I mean? Like,
right? Is that right?
Yeah. He wanted him to attack him, but like, listen, Bob, I know the monkey suit's hot, but we got to get this one shot right. This leopard is going to jump on your back. You'll be fine. Right. You know?
Yeah.
We applaud it. We promise.
Right.
Ooh, boy.
One thing I find interesting is there are 3 hard fade outs in the Dawn of Man scene. And I don't know quite what to make of that. They're hard act break style fade outs.
Yeah. These costumes are so interesting too. And of course, in your mind as you're watching this, that it's people in the costumes. He's not trying to fake anything.
No, but they're still
and that's
quite
sort
good.
of the point. Yeah, they're convincing, certainly. Oh, and then here you go. So here come we got the what is it? The Jets and the what's the West Side
Sharks,
Story?
right?
Yeah, the Sharks and the Jets. Here we go. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Game on. It's
Yeah.
the Vikings and the Packers.
Yeah, right. Now, one of my favorite sort of anthropological notions is that, like, you know, Kevin, you and I have talked before, like, we're still fighting World War I in a way, right? And so we're still fighting. Right. That literally we're still fighting this conflict. It never really ended, right? It's like somebody stole the water hole from somebody else, and then a million years later, it's people are nuking each other.
And that's the actual sum of human history: is someone stole the water hole.
Yeah,
right?
is this lineage starting with some conflict and it reciprocating and refracting throughout history?
Yeah, one reference that I have is on a website called cinephiliabeyond.org, and in the Chelsea Hotel episode we did on Art of Darkness at artofdarkpod.com, we referenced this, and I got a nice picture of Stanley looking real raccoon-like with big black circles around his eyes, and then Arthur C. Clarke kind of looking like a middle manager for a beverage distribution company in the Midwest.
I heard you could do real well with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know what a beverage distributor is personally, but that's a little bit very online. Yeah. But I'm going to keep coming back to this because it's his diary of the writing of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So
that zebra is a painted horse, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
A paint. Why?
They painted a horse. They couldn't get a zebra.
No, they couldn't get a zebra, so they painted a horse. Interesting. Yeah. No horses were painted.
He can get a leopard to ambush one of his actors with, but he couldn't get the zebra.
Apparently not. Yeah.
Yeah. Zebras won't work for scale.
Something like that. Yeah. Well, they're smart.
So let me just read 3 of these excerpts. May 28th, 1964. Suggested to Stanley that they, quote unquote, might be machines who regard organic life as a hideous disease. Stanley thinks this is cute and feels we've got something. So this is, I don't want to get ahead of things, but let me read one more. This is May 31st. One hilarious idea we won't use. 17 alien featureless black pyramids riding in open cars down Fifth Avenue surrounded by Irish cops.
I love that one.
Yeah, you gotta let yourself rip when you're feeling creative and you've been hired by Stanley Kubrick, or you decided to do a collab. And we're talking about May 1964. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so we're hiding in the dark.
I actually love this scene. Yeah. I do love this scene because he zooms in on the face finally of one of these creatures, which is a daring move. You got to be confident. There's a hard fade out again. You got to be confident in your costuming when you're doing that. But there's something about he's getting to the real primal fear of what it was to be in this scenario, right? That he's making that a human. He's really, I feel like, pushing the button hard. Like these are your great grandparents basically dealing with this situation. It's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. You're going to get attacked by a leopard. The other troop is going to come and steal everything you have, which isn't much. You know, it's very.
And to that point, I'd just like to say when he zoomed in on the face like that, his actor absolutely nailed it with the eye movement. It was terrific.
Yeah, that's pretty good face acting. And now we have the monolith here.
Oh man.
And that music comes up, that creepy, I don't know what the name of that is. I think it's Gagati or something like that.
The sort of strange
composer.
How does it go? It's like
it's so creepy. It's got creepy. Like very like druidic kind of vocal notes to it.
Right.
Very unsettling. So now you get the monolith. And apparently there were a bunch of different ideas about what this monolith was going to be. It was going to be a tetrahedron at one point, so it basically looked like a pyramid. Arthur C. Clarke and Kubrick played with the idea of making it a screen that would like show them how to make fire. If you could imagine how cheesy that would be.
Yeah. I that really wouldn't have done it for me. I'm glad they didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
It would be like a YouTube how-to.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You were saying, Dexter?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think this is exactly what it needs to be. You know, the machined sort of qualities, the perfection of the shape against the rest of the landscape.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is speaking so many years after they did it, so the well's kind of poisoned by that, but I don't know how it could have been anything else.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked nearly as well because, I mean, the whole straight lines in nature thing, you know, like that is so unsettling in of itself. And people keep, you know, there's a lot of talk about like, well, what is the monolith? What is it? What is it? Why does it do this? I'm of the opinion that really it doesn't need to do anything except blow their minds. And just the fact that it blows their minds is enough to crack things open to get you thinking differently, right? Like it doesn't have to beam the message how to do anything in your head. All it needs to do is show you there's a different way of doing something.
It's like when Alex Jones goes on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have to be right.
He just has to blow your
that's
mind.
That's what it is, right? It's the ability to damage the consensus as it exists.
And that's what's so powerful about that. Oh, and then they cut the music, hard cut, boom. Like, oh, it's so good.
Well, and they're all worshiping it as well for not a small amount of time.
Yeah. So now we're back on the savannah, sunrise the next day, and now you're dealing with what's the aftermath of this, and it's gone. This is like doing mushrooms or something, in my opinion, right? It's like
I've heard.
Yeah. All that happened, and then the next day,
it's just over. It's gone. Did it really happen at all?
Yeah. And this is something too, is like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the whole stoned ape theory, Terrence McKenna, that McKenna kind of laid out, right?
Oh yeah.
Which everybody thinks is like, oh, some monkey ate mushrooms and then became a human being, which is not what his point was. It was much more gradual process of imbibing these things regularly, and that the slight modifications it made to your interpersonal language and those sorts of things, rather than, you know, but
certainly was for me.
I think anyone who takes that overly literally is probably being super disingenuous.
Yeah, I think so too, or just hasn't taken the time to really understand what he was talking about. I think there's
when now he's smashing the bones,
right,
and the music plays, and it's almost like the Sound of Music too, in a funny way. This was the first drummer.
That's a good point. Yeah.
There's all sorts of things going on here, and he smashes the head of the skull of the pig. It's time to, and then of course this is going to set his entire tribe ahead. You know, and in the book, this is quite provocative and intense. Like this figure, what do they call him? Moon.
Oh, that is Moon Watcher or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. It would have been
because he's like the leader of his tribe and all.
Well, yeah, because now he can secure protein.
Right.
And then technology.
They're match cutting it with this tapir getting killed, and so that's his mental process. Like he's understanding now what this thing does, right, and sort of play acting it. So there's something about the discovery of analogy here, like this, like relating one thing to another thing that he and his people weren't maybe capable of before all that.
And yes, cool. It is Moonwatcher.
Moonwatcher, yeah. Now, the guy who played that Moonwatcher was this like classically trained mime, apparently. And Kubrick let him kind of ad-lib that whole scene, which I think he does great. I mean,
that was
and they're all now they're all hanging out. And they got pork.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're not messing with these guys again.
And they're all hanging out.
Yeah. Delicious. For the first barbecue. a little rare for me, but
what do they call that in Wisconsin? It's tiger meat, right? It's not. Throw some onions in that. You're in good shape. All right. The Keg of America.
Is there a Wisconsin-Minnesota rivalry? Is that like a Michigan-Ohio thing?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Indeed.
Okay.
That's all right, though. I'm German-Irish, so I'm more Wisconsin. But we'll leave it aside.
This is the two tribes of chimps fighting. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yep. It's all the same.
That's
all
it.
The same fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so provocative too, and then they square off over the watering hole.
Yeah, they're going to get it back here. And all he's got is a bone. It's like the advantage is so subtle, so slight, but it's huge.
Yep. And they've already he's already wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
You're done, son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then they all get in there and they start wailing. Yeah. And you can tell the other apes are not happy about it because they just lost their warrior, whatever it is. Yeah. Get out.
Want some of this?
Yeah.
That's right. Warriors, come out and play.
Boom. Oh, first not KO in history, right there. And they all come up and they all like take an experimental whack on him, like they're not sure what it's going to do exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but they all kind of want to try it.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
What an unusual film too. You get this film does not obey the rules of dramatic narrative. It doesn't obey the rules of anything, really.
No.
Yeah, and then he's going to throw the bone.
Yeah.
And now we're in space.
Now that smash cut that you're talking about there, that is not just space, but that is actually a space weapon. Apparently, that first ship it turns to is I don't know if it's like a space laser, non-Jewish space laser of some kind. Or it's a tell me exactly what you're seeing right now, Brad. I'm seeing the bone flip. It just smashed.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Good.
Just smashed.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, it might be sounds like you're a few seconds ahead of us, maybe.
Yeah, but that's great.
Yeah. So now we're looking at the planet. You know, this planet. I started watching this again because we were going to do this, and I had totally forgotten about what they're calling what they call the Haywood Floyd section of the film, which is what we're in now. Right. It just I sort of knew it existed, but I couldn't have told you anything about it for whatever reason.
Well, there's Floyd and there's Bowman.
Yeah. So we're in the Floyd section now.
Yes. And if I'm not mistaken, I saw the actor who played Floyd at, gosh, what's the name of the theater? There's this great theater in Washington Heights. It'll come back to me. The United Palace, which is this classic old cinema. And he spoke about his performance and working on the movie and everything before they screened it. It was the last film that was screened at the Palace, I think in 1968 or 1969, before they shut it down as a movie house and then reopened it recently. If you're ever in Manhattan or in New York City, look up the United Palace, Washington Heights. And if they're screening a film, whatever it is, go see it just for the experience of it. It's incredible. And he talked a bit about working on this in a speech that he made that was cut from the film. And he recited the speech, which I thought was very impressive because
interesting.
How many years later are we talking? 40, 50 years later, he still remembered it. And there's a little continuity error that I can point out that he pointed out.
Okay.
And Kubrick actually covered the continuity error with a little bit of voiceover, which is super clever.
Of course.
So the Pan American moment where suddenly it's like a commercial. Oh my gosh, there's commercial space flight. He doesn't have to tell you anything. He's just showing you.
He's just showing
you. And then my poor friend who had to work on these models was probably tortured.
Oh God. One little production note that I found to be fascinating. So we're in the floating pen thing, right? It's and this is a very practical effect. Obviously, this is pre-CGI, and that floating pen they accomplished by sticking this pen to a piece of glass, right? And shooting through the glass. So then you can move the glass and move the thing, right? It's a very simple, like magician stage trick. However, they stuck it to it with two-sided tape. And what I find fascinating is this is a movie about space travel, right? What's coming in the very near future. Two-sided tape had just been invented the year before. So literally, Kubrick's talking about video calls and, traveling to space. And he's using stuff, two-sided tape, which to me, I've assumed it had been around forever. Yeah. It had been invented like the year before.
Right. Very practical effects guy for the win. There's a new hot new item, Stanley. Two-sided tape. Two-sided. I bet it was from 3M too.
Probably
a great Minnesota company.
Oh, there you go.
I bet it was. I love that he's blowing your mind with this convention of something that's recognizable. It's a commercial flight, but there are other little nuances in this. He's the only guy on this flight.
Yeah, what is up with that?
It's almost it's because it's just for him because he's that important. We need to immediately send this guy up to the space to the station. Yeah. And you've got this lovely music and this sort of the waltzing, and everybody was so optimistic about space at this point.
The thing to think about too is important here is the United States hadn't gone to the moon yet. Kevin, I know you have other feelings about that.
Stanley hadn't yet faked the moon landing.
But when this movie came out, as far as everyone knew, Russia was winning the space race.
Right.
So that anxiety, I think, is baked into this a little bit.
Right.
So how intentional do we think that was?
That they released it then? I don't know.
Well, I suppose what I'm getting at is the Pan-American versus some sort of pseudo one world thing in the context of the space race happening.
Yeah, that's
do you think he's doing that just because he's an American making an American movie in America?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think there probably is something to that. But I will say later on, Haywood Floyd is talking to some people, we'll see it here in a few minutes, that are Russian. They're Russians. But they're also clearly not at his level of importance either. So, yeah, it's hard to say.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Kind of wondering if there's not a propagandistic angle to it.
Probably to a certain extent, right? I mean, everybody had a horse in the space race, I feel like.
Well, Kubrick, it was another funny factoid that we came across is that he actually looked, I don't know if he achieved it, but he looked to see if he could get the production insured against the possibility that they might, land on the moon before he could finish it
and not find anything or something.
Yeah, right. He was thinking about all the angles. And he's doing this thing where he's messing with your sense of space. It's spinning in one shot, they're level in another. You're disoriented, but kind of not. And then the music, it's just such a lovely contrast. And the models are incredible.
They are incredible.
Just gorgeous.
They really are. And they hold up. It amazingly holds up. Nothing from 1968 that has a single special effect that it holds up except this movie. There's great films from that period. I mean, no doubt. But just in terms of, we're so, we're so inured to like special effects. If it's not completely indiscernible, we don't buy it. And this works.
And here he is, and she's in the pink and everything's very, very funny. And then these sets are just so cool.
Oh, they're great. It's so spacious. You notice how spacious it is in here?
Yeah. Imagine having that much room in this day and age.
Oh my God. Yeah, you don't have that much room. I don't have that much room. Like, most people don't have that much room at their jobs that are on Earth. Like, you work on a cube farm, you don't remember if it was.
I don't know if it was this actor. It was one of these actors. I think it might have been the guy who played Bowman, now that I think about it. But the continuity error is coming up here pretty soon. So that's kind of fun. And all this gee whiz, these telescreens and all this. And it really, a lot of this stuff has come true. Kind of fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Now, one thing that apparently Kubrick did was he went to some of the major companies, like, I think there's a Hilton reference in here.
Yes.
And asked them what they thought what things would be like for them in 2001 to try and get some references. Like there's the Hilton. This is the Hilton space station, apparently. Those chairs, man, I would kill for one of those chairs. Look how cool that thing is.
Yeah, here's where the Hilton Space Station 5. I think he calls his daughter first.
He does. Yeah. Stops in and makes a call. Yeah. Which is Kubrick's daughter. That's Kubrick's daughter.
That's right. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. Cool little touches. Yeah, the Howard Johnson Earthlight room. Bell telephones, picture phone.
Staying at the Hojo.
Yeah. But even the sets don't look dated, like even aesthetically, like they.
But yeah, he had such an extraordinary sense of design. Yeah. Super cool. Yeah, and the costumes and all of it. Right, and he's oh my God, this does make me want to barf a little bit. He's like sitting there in the background. You get the spinning. Is that the moon or the Earth? I think that's the Earth. Or is that the moon?
Earth. I'm not sure. I think it looks too white. It looks like it's the moon to me.
I'm thinking that's supposed to be the moon, but
yeah, it looks like maybe the moon. Yeah. Right, and is she playing with the dog?
I don't remember what she's doing.
Playing.
Yeah. It's very, very cute. Yeah, but and I think this part, I don't know that this is even really setting up much plot. I think this is Kubrick just trying to show a little technologically what might be going on. I don't know if he had like so much of the dialogue in this film is like incidental and that doesn't really have that much to do with the plot.
You don't. The only lines that you really remember are Hal's.
Yeah, when they're like Hal's plotting against them and they're plotting against Hal later, that dialogue is actually plot relevant. But a lot of it up till then isn't all that important. It's not that it's not important. It's not. The exposition isn't happening via dialogue, I guess, is the way that I would say.
I think that's exactly the right way to put it. You know, it's not setting up anything. It's just there.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the setting itself.
Right.
You know, the dialogue is the set.
Yeah, and which makes it very realistic. And you know, he's relying on his visual storytelling much more so than his dialogue writing.
He's famous for that.
Of course, yeah. I mean, he's sort of the master of that.
Very interesting, though, in terms of the pace. This film, of all his other films, this reminds me of Barry Lyndon the most.
Really? Well, because of the pace.
The pace. Here we go. So there's the continuity error comes here. There is see behind her. She's got a sweater on the right.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It goes missing. There's like a blue sweater. The blue jacket. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but look for all the jackets because it disappears
They
later.
There's 3 of them there. Yep.
Yeah. It's very, very slight, and the fellow only mentioned it because he and his wife had seen it.
Now she doesn't have one.
There we go.
Yep, she doesn't have one. The one on the left doesn't have one anymore.
It looks like
there
2
you go.
of them are gone.
Right, and now
the blue one.
What they've done is they've written in. So now if you're listening, there's a speaker, like a voiceover announcer says, "Oh, we've lost a blue shawl," or something like that. Like he knew he couldn't cut it again.
Yeah.
So he had to build it in that somehow it just went missing because it was not intentional.
That's so wild.
Like some sort of hot patch right on your movie.
Yep.
Oh my God. And of course in the Shining there are all of these unusual continuity errors that are on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But not this film.
Now here's an interesting bit. So they start talking about Clavius, which is the moon base. Clavius, they are hearing rumors that there's a pandemic there. But there's no messages are getting in or getting out. And Haywood Floyd's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. So I think it's just interesting. And that's the cover story for the fact that they've discovered the monolith up there, which we're going to see. But I just like, cover story is that there's this deadly pandemic. They have to keep separated, don't ask too many questions, yada, yada, yada.
Curious.
Yeah.
Don't love that.
No.
Don't like that. And of course, this is all in the backdrop of the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
And so all those anxieties and the idea that the Americans can't quite be forthright with the Russians here, and how much trust is there between these nations. And,
well, that's the thing is they're all Russians, and she just said something like, they're not letting our rockets into the Clavius moon base. What's going on? Like, why? Tell us she's trying to get the real.
Yeah, they
from
denied men the permission to land. Which of course would be an extreme problem.
Yeah, and they've presumably been cooperating up until now.
Yeah. I've got a few more of his from the journal. June 20th, finished the opening chapter, view from the year 2000, and started on the robot sequence. July 1st, last day working at Time Life, completing Man in Space. Checked into new suite, 1008 at the Chelsea Hotel. July 2nd, and this is Arthur C. Clarke, his working diary of working on this with Kubrick. Averaging 1,000 or 2,000 words a day. Brad, how many pages is that? It's pretty good, right?
And text is a novel. That's 3 pages. 1,000 is about 3 pages. That's a good day writing.
Yeah, that's a good day. Yeah. Stanley reads first 5 chapters and says, "We've got a bestseller here." July 9th, spent much of afternoon teaching Stanley how to use the slide rule. He's fascinated. Which
I love I think we might have talked about this before, but I love the idea that he can get distracted with that. Just like throw him a little tool.
to weaponize your autism.
That's right. Like, point it in a direction, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one more, and we'll keep coming back to this throughout. July 11th, joined Stanley to discuss plot development, but spent almost all the time arguing about Cantor's theory of transfinite groups. Stanley tries to refute the part equals the whole paradox by arguing that a perfect square is not necessarily identical with the integer of the same value. I decide that he is a latent mathematical genius. Guys, work on the movie.
Yeah, for real.
We're trying to write about the space aliens, and instead we argued about Cantor's theory of transfinite
Well,
groups.
and isn't that just how it always happens, though, with these types?
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point.
All right, so now we're going to the moon, which is a different flight. So Haywood Floyd is going to Clavius Moon Base. Now, here's where all of the sperm symbolism starts.
Oh,
the moon pod itself, we'll see in a moment when it opens up. But first, we're going to get a rundown of all of the gee whiz stuff that's going to go on in space. It feels a little bit like a Disney ride, like Disney and Epcot Center in the 90s or the 80s or the 90s.
They're watching like judo. These women. He's accompanied by comely women on his entire voyage to the moon.
It's a good point. They're pulling his straws out. I mean, literally, not.
Yep, right. Pan Am. It's so ironic too, right? Pan American, and here we are. We're going to the moon.
Well, and it's a company that's no longer in business. Too.
What could be more American, Brad?
Right. You imagine how strict Kubrick must have been on the way that they're walking.
I can only imagine.
Right? Just like, do it again, Sheila. No, Sheila, listen, you're moving too fast. You got to stop. Nope.
You need to remember, you're in space with Velcro shoes. Be deliberate.
Right. This is the only effect that looks a little hokey in the whole movie to me. This one right here, where she's walking walking like upside down.
How did they do this?
I think they may have actually rotated part of the set. Like rotated the set and the camera in opposite directions.
At this point, this is the point where the Robitussin's really starting to kick in.
Yeah.
Where did Sheila go?
Right.
Oh, no. Oh, it does make me a little barfy now that I watch it again.
Yeah.
Just sort of go like, wow.
Yeah. And so they're in this red room. I think there's quite a bit of like birth sort of symbolism going on. The way he's eating this looks unpleasant.
Yeah, I think if that's what it takes to get space travel, I'll deal with it, but it wouldn't be my first preference.
Yeah.
I feel like liquids are not an advantage over solids in space. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't think so, but I'm no physicist. Yeah. Read instructions before you use.
He is studying them intently.
All right,
there's a lot.
The zero-G toilet.
There's 10 paragraphs. I think
that's all of this.
That's pretty funny.
He gets all of this humor into it. The left can't meme.
Yeah.
He gets all of this humor into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's been a ton of little moments of humor already. These sly little winks. You're not laughing aloud, really.
No.
That probably got a chuckle in the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wonder how realistic.
There's hardly anything that doesn't get an actual laugh in the cinema, though.
I
don't know how often you guys actually go to the theaters. I don't super frequently because I don't like watching movies with masses of people. But
yeah.
People are just bark laughing like seals these days when there's even a shitty throwaway joke. And it's a terrible experience going to a movie theater these days.
Oh, jeez.
People got no taste.
Yeah.
Oh, please. Yeah. Just another Marvel movie.
Yeah. Hey, man.
We're all going to be dead, and they're going to be rebooting Batman every 6 months at that point. It's just
darker and darker and darker every time.
If I can give you guys just one example, the last movie I did go and see was the latest Scream film, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Wes Craven. He's one of my favorites. The movie was very directly an homage to what he'd been trying to do with the original Scream.
Yeah.
And at one point, one of the characters is directly lampooning that exact sort of person who's demanding a reboot and a remaster every 3 months.
Yeah.
And there's a throwaway line about it, and everyone starts hooting and hollering and laughing. But they're the ones that are being very directly made fun of. There was no self-awareness. It was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like the characters talking.
Masochism.
Yeah, he was jabbing them, and they just were like, yeah, those idiots. Sign
Man,
for
man.
me.
Ugh.
All right, so now we're gonna see.
Yeah, go ahead.
They're approaching. I love this shot where it's the 3 astronauts kind of standing around talking, and the base is in the background.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's a cool retro futurist shot. But
yeah,
we're gonna see the little spermatozoa moon pod enter. Now look at this port opening up.
Jeez, is it hot in here, or is it just me?
So I got thinking about like the actual moon symbolism, right? Like what is up with the moon? Oh, hold on. So what is up with the moon? So I found like there's all kinds of things. There's moon tarot, and there's moon, moon is related to women's menstrual cycles supposedly, and full moons are when people go crazy, and there's all these sort of things. One thing that I found was pretty interesting is this guy who translated the Brothers Grimm's tales into English. So this old folklorist, and he was saying that in like European folklore, the moon has this relation to the human psyche of rhythm. And he suggested that it goes all the way back in evolution to the tidal pools where life sort of is thought to have originated, right? You have these tidal pools where the tides come in and it's inundated with water, and the tides go out, and now it's dry, and it has this very rhythmic but also dynamic environment. And so he is saying, this folklorist, that it's a deep part of the human psyche, this rhythm as being part of life. And so I think there's this like going to the moon, because what is the point of even going to the moon? And I'm in like favor generally of like space exploration if you can do it.
Of course.
But like, other than just going, is there something deeper to going to the moon specifically? And I think there is this there's something about human nature that thinks we're getting out and getting closer to touching the divine or something, that we're like this thing that's been at the pulse beat of human life. We're getting out and we're actually making contact with it in some way. Now, I don't know if it feels like that to Neil Armstrong when he lands, because he didn't, right, Kevin?
Sigh up.
No, to your point, I do wonder about that specifically, though.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we have that same association with Mars.
Mars
and for
is
all
different.
the people who talk about Saturn and Jupiter and colonizing these other places, it's not the same as when they or we talk about the moon.
Right.
There's something intrinsically different about it.
Yeah.
And
Well, the moon is ours.
The moon is ours.
Yeah, the moon is ours. It's in our system. It influences our life here, and the other planets, of course, do, but in a
spooky,
minuscule way.
Yeah.
Relative to the moon. Yeah.
I think there's something. I think there is something kind of profound to the idea, and I think Kubrick is probably aware of that. I mean, in certain sense, this base is just on the moon, because obviously if we're going to do a space base, we're probably going to put it on the moon. At least in 1968, that would have been the perspective. But yeah, I think there is something kind of profound. And then to go there and find some evidence of somebody else, right?
And there's this sort of existential thing behind this, which bears stating. It's very clear and simple, but this idea that we all know scientifically that the sun will at some point expand, and all life on Earth as we know it will be eradicated.
Yeah.
It's hundreds of millions of years hence, but it's the other side of the thing that Kubrick just showed us at the beginning of the film with the apes. You've got the dawn of man. Well, if you look at up at the moon and at the stars, you're contemplating the end of man as well.
Right.
And I think this idea, in a really primitive way, I think we understand that if we can get ourselves onto the moon, if we can terraform the moon, if we can make the moon habitable, it means that there's the possibility that we could make the next jump. and the next jump.
Right. We've proven that we can transcend somehow. And it is this like galactically optimistic step in a way.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly the reason we went to the moon in the first place, right? In actual history, allegedly, it is just that logical first step.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a proof of concept, right? If you can build the base there. Kevin, what do you know about Kubrick's supposed involvement in filming the fake moon landing and making that a thing?
Very little in terms of whether it was verified or not. I think that. Do you know anything about it?
A little bit. I mean, it's all just rumor and speculation.
Yeah,
there was a
that's
quote unquote
I mean.
confession video a while ago that turned out to be that was just an actor reading a script about confessing to faking the moon landing.
Oh yeah.
And is that the conspiracy that it really was Kubrick? Of course.
There's a lot of stuff in The Shining which seems to point at it. If you want to watch Room 237, the moon is 237,000 something like that. Miles away from the Earth. Little Danny is wearing an Apollo space a sweater, a rocket sweater. There's some chatter that he got budget to make this film in exchange for helping out to fake the moon landing. I don't doubt that some of the footage was staged. That's my going theory.
So that's the dismissal point. Whenever anyone wants to tell us, obviously it happened, right? Of course they needed be real for this, that, and the other stuff, or there's parts where they just couldn't get any actual footage, so they had to do this instead. And, that's a really cheap dismissal of moon.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't make any sense that you would drag a camera along on the mission either. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't add up.
I lean into thinking we probably did go, but also not I'm not 100% convinced, because it seems to me that as time goes on, probably the whole 20th century was a psyop. So
I'm firmly in that camp myself. The 20th century and the early portions of the 21st have just been one big seething mass of really cheap propaganda that's been legitimized.
So if that was real, 10 other things that I think are real were fake. So I've got no hill. There's very few hills I want to die on.
Definitely landed on the moon. Right. Michael Jordan never existed.
Right. Yeah. Right. Like who knows? Right.
Which you got to pick one of the two.
So
you can't take away Air Jordan.
Right.
Something I think about in regards to this, though, you guys knowing a little bit more about Kubrick himself.
Yeah.
What are the odds that he was planting some of that stuff as bait for people like that, though? People inclined to my sort of thinking.
He might have been doing that to just mess with people, or he could have been trying to make a confession that he felt bad about faking this whole thing. It's really, it's very
you gotta watch 237. It really makes a case. It's very.
It does make a pretty convincing case. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he would have been the guy to do it. I mean, he was clearly he'd have been the guy if you were going to fake anything.
This film alone is proof of concept. We can, and then you have to remember too that when let's assume they faked the landing with the footage, whether they landed or not. Let's assume that a lot of the footage was staged, if not all of it. Nobody was screening that footage on a giant screen. Right. Everybody was screening it on these tiny little crummy TVs that are blurry. Do you remember watching TV in the 80s or the 90s? Like your little rear project,
Yeah.
So
it was a lot easier. Yeah, it was a lot easier to fake. Well, here's the thing too. If the moon landing if we did land on the moon, okay, let's just for a second suppose that we did. The reasons are all fake, right? So the whole reason that they budgeted for it and did all that was to beat the Russians in a propaganda campaign. So even if it did technically happen, the socio-political, Kennedy stood up and was like, we got to do this and the other thing to do the hard thing because it's hard,
Right.
Literally, he was saying we have to beat communism. And so we got to send people to the moon, which maybe is a good cause. That's not even a disagreement, but the whole, where does the fakery start and end that's where the debate is. Where does the boundaries of that land?
So what are they? They're eating their sandwiches on the way to the.
Yeah, so they're gonna go see the scene in which there's another monolith.
So,
yeah,
is there anything to it? We think that they're eating solid food now. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, that's
because they have gravity now, right? So
they do have gravity, but very slight, right? Because it's moon gravity. Yeah,
I think that is it. Yeah, it's not entirely clear to me why that would be.
The colors of the shot are great.
Yeah, it's really the
the
contrast
blues
of the
and
red.
the yellow and the red. It's so good. Yeah. It's so, but again, we're seeing a lot of that sort of. That was a little bit of exposition because it's like, hey, we're gonna go see this thing, but mostly he's like, oh, you got a sandwich, you got a ham sandwich in there. Oh, well, I'll take a ham sandwich. That sounds good. It's very like,
oh, these sandwiches are getting better.
Right. Oh. Coffee? Oh, yeah. Okay, great.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
They do still talk like more like people in the 60s, right? It looks like it could be now or the future or whatever, but they still talk like guys in the 60s. It sounds more like a Twilight Zone episode when they talk than it does a episode of, whatever.
I'm glad they decided to do that though, instead of trying to make up a bunch of slang and project forward how we were going to be talking.
Right.
Because for an audience in this day and age, that would have absolutely ruined it.
That's a good point. It would have just sounded like a farce. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you heard about that red pill, Johnny? All the kids are talking about it. I don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
I don't take any pills. The only pills I take are for my nerves, Johnny, from the war. Yeah, so cool.
So one thing he says in here is he mentions that the monolith appears to have been deliberately buried. And I thought that was an interesting, okay, these are aliens putting it here. I think that's pretty clear. Why are the aliens burying it? What's the point of burying it rather than just having it stand out? But then also, there's something spooky about that a little bit. Like, since this movie came out, we discovered in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe. And Göbekli Tepe and a few other monuments similar. None of them are at quite the scale of Göbekli Tepe. Those were all deliberately buried. And so what is this impulse to, like, take these important things and bury them?
Well, the concept behind
good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have an answer in terms of 2001. The concept is that the monolith is deliberately buried on the moon so that when humanity becomes a spacefaring race, species, and uncovers it, it sends a signal, which is about what's about to happen. It sends a signal to the originator of the
back to whoever invented
back to them saying they've awakened.
Right. Now, okay. Now this was the big key in the original short story that this film came from, called The Sentinel, which Arthur C. Clarke's idea. It was the germ of an idea because Stanley Kubrick bought like 6 short stories, the rights to 6 short stories from Arthur C. Clarke. The Sentinel was one of them. He sold the rest of them back to him. And that was the whole thing, was that this alien society had set up these waypoints.
As you would.
Yeah.
Because you see these violent ape-like creatures on Earth and you got to contain them.
But however, they're the ones who encouraged us to do it, right? In the plot of the film. Like, I suppose you could say that they didn't know what was going to happen when they dropped the monolith on us.
That gets into the whole thing behind so many different theories of alien contact, right? And for me, there's so many theorists out there and so many UFO heads who want to talk like this, that we were groomed by an alien species to become what we are.
Right.
And it's I don't know. Just with my background, I don't necessarily believe that, as fun as it is to play with the idea.
Yeah.
But I don't even know where I was going with that, but
I'm more convinced that if we're in any contact with aliens, they're not traveling here physically.
I am also extremely partial to the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis.
Yeah. So
I suppose what I'm really getting at is, why would they leave way markers for an inherently violent species.
Right. Don't find us unless it's to come kill, like they
Right.
got out of their cage. It's time to go tamp down that issue.
Would be the one thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, it does make you think about these, like,
they're gonna land. The first thing you're gonna see is Lizzo.
And just clap and just stand and clap. That's what'll happen.
Brave. Stunning and brave.
And there we go with the touching of the monolith.
Yeah, you've got to make contact with this. And it's the same thing the apes did 3 million years before, right? Trying to convince yourself it's real. And
even now, the perfection of the monolith, still, with all the technology and all the things that we've seen, it still blows their minds.
It does. Absolutely.
Nothing like this. Nothing. The dimensions of it. It's just this perfect sort of strange thing. They're all drawn to it, and of course, then it shrieks, which is when it sends its signal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very, very difficult noise to cope with, even listening to it in the film. Yeah, and he takes this picture of them in front of it, right? Oh, I love this gesture. He says, "Oh, get closer, get closer." Okay, we're gonna take a photo. Something charming about that. They're human beings. Ooh,
right.
And then the sound. Oh.
In their minds, they've discovered evidence of alien life here as well. There it is. Oh, the high-pitched beeping. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Say it ain't so.
I'll tell you what, I had a black monolith experience, Kevin.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was a black pyramid under the influence of jungle hallucinogens.
Okay. All right.
I had a mile tall black pyramid dropped on my head.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, it was a comparable life experience to what the Australopithecus experienced. So that's part of my ultra-terrestrial agreement with the ultra-terrestrial theory as well. Things can happen in your head that are equivalent to discovering a monolith when you wake up in your backyard.
I had a buddy submit a listener story to my podcast about seeing a black monolith himself off in the distance, driving late one night.
Whoa! And
it's very clear that this thing was not actually there. Whoa. But he was fully awake. He wasn't asleep at the wheel dreaming or nothing.
Right.
He was just sitting there on the horizon. Whoa. And between this film, that story, your experience, it makes me wonder, what is it about that symbol that triggers in the human mind, right?
Right.
What is it about that obsidian black, geometrically perfect shapes?
Yeah,
there's something there.
It's like condensed mystery itself or something. It's like the symbol.
My iPhone increasingly looks like the monolith.
Yes. Yeah. It's why you got to put a case on it to make it look cute instead of menacing and HAL-like.
Oh yeah, I have my my anime waifu here. Is on my right. I think this is the actor who I saw speak.
Is this Bowman? This is the guy who plays Bowman.
Yeah, this is Bowman.
Yeah.
I have a few more entries from Arthur C. Clarke's diary while they were working on 2001, July 12th. Now have everything except the plot.
Good, easy work from there.
Good job.
Least important part, right?
Yeah, who needs it? July 13th. Got to work again on the novel and made good progress despite the distraction of the Republican convention. Those Republicans ruining everything. July 26th. Stanley's birthday. Went to the village and found a card showing the earth coming apart at the seams and bearing the inscription, "How can you have a happy birthday when the whole world may blow up at any minute?" July 28th. Stanley, what we want is a smashing theme of mythic grandeur. August 1st.
They nailed it, huh?
I think they nailed it. Yeah. August 1st, as Bowman does his little shadow boxing. And I love these sarcophagi. Oh, and then we meet Hal here for the first time.
That shot is incredible. The reflection of
Bowman is reflected in the eye of Hal.
That's an incredible shot.
And we have that red, which is echoed from before. It echoes all of the cockpits.
Yeah.
Which is who's in control, right? I'm going to read one more. August 1st. Ranger 7 impacts on the moon. Stay up late to watch the first TV close-ups. Stanley starts to worry about the forthcoming Mars probes. Suppose they show something that shoots down our storyline. This is what I was talking about earlier. Later, he approaches Lloyd's of London to see if he could insure himself against this eventuality.
And it would be Lloyd's of London too, wouldn't it?
They will insure everything, right? They insure like Elizabeth Hurley's legs or something.
I'll allow it.
One cool thing about this set, another kind of production note too, is they actually built a big centrifugal room that spun. That was part of how they accomplished some of these shots where he's running around the room, right? It's very neat.
Was this done at, what's the name of the studio? Something Wood in London?
I don't know where it was shot, where the studio was actually.
There's a famous studio like 50 minutes an hour outside of London. I went out there once, the studio.
Yeah, now note too, they made this look like a tablet. It doesn't move, so it's just a screen built into the table, but they made it look like it was like a iPad, basically. Yeah.
It was shot, 2001: A Space Odyssey was shot at Shepperton Studios. Filming began in late 65 and continued for 2 years, allowing plenty of time for the movie's revolutionary visual effects to be developed.
Wow.
Amazing. Given the scale, the film also inhabited stages at MGM, Borehamwood, and Elstree. Kubrick himself took on the mantle of special photographic effects designer and director, something that would win him an Oscar. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Shepperton Studios. I don't know where that is. Anyway, get going.
One thing I want to point out that from a writer's standpoint that I was really impressed with is when Kubrick is trying to accomplish some exposition, how it's done. So the interview with these guys, if people made this movie now, the interview would be diegetic to the scene, right? It would be happening as a scene. But instead we get the crew watching it while they, in a very boring manner, eat their dinner, watch an interview of themselves. That gives us a lot of the necessary exposition of the mission, right? So he's juxtaposing this this sort of importance, this monumental historic thing that's happening that they're part of, with the banality of eating like cafeteria slop.
Literal slop. Those
literal slop. Yeah.
Nutrient bricks.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm hyper fixating on the food for some reason, and I'm not sure why I'm doing it, but they have had sandwiches, they've had liquid paste, and now this.
Yeah, that green stuff looks awful. Right? That looks, whatever was in the third one from the left, though, he cleaned that up pretty good.
So Shepperton Studios is at Pinewood, which is what I was trying to remember.
Okay.
Pinewood, which is the big studio facility in the UK.
Okay. So probably a lot of other big films.
Oh, lots of things have been shot there. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. HAL 9000.
HAL, here we go. And of course, HAL is IBM, just with the letters moved one over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the what is it? Hermeneutic. What's it supposed to? Hermeneutic analytic, I think, is what it stands for.
Heuristic something, I think.
Heuristic, heuristic analytic is what HAL's supposed to stand for. Analytic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another. And of course, HAL, the shape of HAL echoes the monolith.
It does.
Yeah, it's heuristically programmed algorithmic computer.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, and that's coming from the Robot Hall of Fame, robothalloffame.org. Hey, powered by Carnegie Mellon and HAL 9000. I'm going to read this. The HAL 9000 computer is a non-human and central character in the film by Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, 2001: A Space Odyssey. As the brain of the spaceship Discovery, HAL is a robot that uses the mechanical sensing and information systems under its control. HAL is an acronym standing for Heuristically Programmed Algorithmic Computer. Heuristic and algorithmic are two primary processes of intelligence. How would you define what heuristics is, Brad?
Isn't heuristics like sort of narrative around problem solving? Like the sort of narrative you use to solve a problem?
Yeah, it's the definition is mental shortcuts that can facilitate problem solving and probability judgment. Yeah,
a heuristic is when you just set up something that works as for 80% of things to cut down on the mental math you
Okay.
have to do to get somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
They're not designed to be perfect or hard rules or anything.
Right. Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be like rules of thumb would be a heuristic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Mm. Yeah, and they're eating more of their slop and they're watching their iPads
Right,
and
right. Yeah. Now here's
hanging out.
interesting. Do you believe that Hal has genuine emotions? World News Tonight asks Bowman, and he acts like he has genuine emotions, but he's programmed that way so we can deal with him, which I think is really interesting, right? That's the motivation to give him emotions. So us human beings can actually, not
cope with Hal's
with it and not kill it. Basically, right?
Right, because they're all stuck in space with it. And of course, Hal's listening to everything.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk about a spermatozoa. Look at this ship. Yeah. It looks,
My boys can swim.
Yeah. It looks as good or better than Star Wars, the first ones, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, probably better. I would say
Obviously,
better.
Star Wars, pulls from this.
Yeah.
There's nothing in science fiction that comes after that doesn't really.
Yeah. The only thing that makes this dates this movie really is the way they speak. Also, the shorts, shoes, socks combo that he's wearing right here.
Also, the man's physique. This was considered. This is like
physique.
This guy is a 10. This guy is cut
yoked
for 1960s. Yoked. And he's got like little,
Yeah.
You got to feel like that they had an easier time of it, don't you? They probably didn't have to work out the same way.
Is this where we start talking about seed oils and the consequences of the food pyramid?
That's right. They never should have banned smoking, man. That was when it all came
That's
down.
my bugaboo, and I hold that position very seriously. As far as I'm concerned, smokers are the most oppressed race on the planet. But
It's true. It's true. Nobody's sticking up for him either.
Yep. Well, then they just took Philip Morris and Company just took the market to China. That's all that was.
Well, that was smart of them.
Yeah, they made more money after the bans and everything in the U.S. They didn't need the market anymore.
Good for that. Well, good for them, I guess.
Yeah, all right. Well, he's got these funny red goggles.
Yeah,
he's
in a sun lamp, probably, right?
Oh, that would make sense, right?
He's my guess. Yeah,
getting his vitamin D.
Yeah.
And most of the crew here, of course, are asleep. And
Now, I think so it's his birthday. It's his birthday, and then he gets wished a happy birthday also by Hal, which is kind of depressing. Happy birthday, Frank. Yeah. Yeah.
depressing or creepy?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah.
Just from my own perspective, I feel like that's not, it feels like it's supposed to be somehow scary. I think that's an attempt to kind of intimidate the audience. Look at what this knows about them.
Right. Yeah. And then this chess move here too, where Hal's clearly smarter than him. Which, in 2022, I'd expect the computer to kick my ass playing chess, if it wants to.
Yeah, when I go to chess.com and try and play some games, I got to set it to easy.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, or else I'm getting trounced. Yeah.
And of course, Kubrick was a giga fan of chess.
Right. So that was probably unsettling to him, the idea that a computer, that's maybe why he put it in there. If you think about it,
he had a little chess computer. Kubrick did, as a kid. One of those where it would just like little lights would light up, and if you ever get a chance to see the exhibition that goes around of Kubrick's stuff, his things, don't miss that. I had the good fortune to see that in London, I think in 2019 in the before times. It wouldn't surprise me if they tour that and bring it to Manhattan at some point, bring it to New York. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's another great chess playing computer scene in one of the other top science fiction movies of all time, which is The Thing.
Yep.
Where Kurt Russell's character is playing chess against the computer. and it beats him. And he pours Jameson in it and starts smoking it. And he says, "Cheating," and he pours Jameson in it and starts smoking it. And he says, "Cheating, bitch." It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite moves.
I love that he does these drawings and he starts to show, and now we see here through Hal's eye, this fisheye lens.
Yeah.
What a move! What a creepy move. By the way,
the fisheye lens it's distorting, but it's also showing us that he sees more than you do as a person. I think, right? It's a little bit panopticon-y, even though it's not seeing everything through that one eye. But
panopticon-y,
yeah,
nice one.
Panopticon-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the German.
Yeah. And now Hal starts putting forward these suspicions about this mission, which is interesting to me because it's like the mission is they're going to Jupiter space because that signal I think they heard another an echo of that signal, the monolith signal out there, but the crew doesn't know that. These two guys don't know that. They think this is just another part of the normal progression of space travel or space exploration. They don't know about this monolith signal.
It's just occurring to me how incredible it is for Kubrick and for Arthur C. Clarke to achieve this great character in Hal just out of a series of little boxes and a voice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's really pretty amazing. There's no other character in cinema quite like Hal.
No.
Do you think that we even have the skilled directors and designers, and do we have the film technology to make that character again? You know,
I don't know that we have
reliance on CGI effect like we do.
Yeah,
I don't think that we have the writers. It's the writing paired with the totality of the vision. A great writer like Arthur C. Clarke, a visionary, matched with another visionary. A film like this comes along once in a generation.
I think the tendency now, one of the powers of this film and this part of the film, the Hal sequence, is how willing Kubrick was to be patient and banal. Yeah. It's so, I know people complain that it's slow, but that's because Hal is playing this very patient chess game with them. And so he has to say, hey, this seems kind of suspicious, this whole mission. Oh, you know what? I think I've got a fault in the antenna unit. Like, it's I think now the tendency would be to hit, he would say there's a fault in the A35 unit, and there would be like a heavy piano chord,
they'd already be running.
Music.
They'd already be racing against time.
Just trying way too hard with it.
I think that's a big part of what makes this movie work.
There's no attention span anymore. It would never get made because of the last movie that maybe has this whiff of slowness that I can think of is like big kind of not tentpole, but a big movie would maybe be Dunkirk. Dunkirk had a quality of kind of measured sort of slowness to it. Yeah. But still nothing like this.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me because we can make 3-hour-long superhero movies, but no one can sit through the 2.5 hours of this.
Yeah. It's because they're getting the dopamine hit every 4 seconds or whatever, and there's all these gotcha gags, right?
Man, we got to get people back on the Robitussin.
If they would have, if they were making this now, they would have had to do that MCU thing where there's like a little. If there's not action, there has to be a little joke all the time, right? Yeah. And not a joke like reading the lavatory instructions, but
here's your ham-handed throwaway line.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody goes, it's like, yeah.
Those films are just, the movies are totally tested in front of the audiences and edited and recut and scenes shot and yeah. Oh, and then I love this. Then the shift to the sort of the red suit where he's going to be going outside.
He's going down that white hall. That's such a cool shot. The composition and the colors of that is so intense.
I love these sort of pods. He's actually going to go take a spacewalk with one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, live in the pod.
I won't do it, Kevin.
Make the movie.
Yeah. What is up with the different colored suits? Seems weird, doesn't it?
Well, there's got to be something to it, right? There's
rank or something, or
Probably
Kubrick's
how
probably
you
doing
would-
something more to it.
Maybe,
Well,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I'm sure there's
mm.
something more to it. It's got to be more than just
Yeah.
rank or caste on the ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, these are clearly the suits for spacewalks. So my guess is that they would be brightly colored so they could
So you can
stand
see
out
'em?
against the rest. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be my
Yeah.
guess. Just the
No, it's-
practical
right. But is Kubrick
requirement
trying
of
to
it.
say something with it?
Possibly, yeah. Who knows?
That
This one shot of this little meteorite just lonely floating through space. It's just
That's
like, oh, there's another one.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, totally wild. But that, without saying a word, he shows you the risk.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
this is not
what could happen
empty.
out there.
There's stuff going on out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the whole pace of this whole scene, it's shot at very close to what I think would be the time it would take to do what they're doing. Right? You get it, you walk into the room, you get into the pod bay door opens, you go out of he's not cutting any of it.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. And so it's just so methodical. And I think there's something that's really well accomplished when you're this patient and this methodical. Any little seed of doubt or weirdness or sinisterness stands out, right? Every little bit of dialogue feels significant. Every little gesture that seems a little off feels significant.
And we've already been trained to recognize that, like, motion isn't quite the way that you expect it to be in space. So the implication here is that they're jettisoning. They've been jettisoned toward Jupiter. They're going at pace here.
Right.
So they're flying through, but you have no sense of perspective here. It's just this little pod against the ship itself, and then of course this antenna that's pointed back to Earth.
Yeah.
And what happens if they do lose communication with Earth?
Right.
Those are the stakes right now, and it's not really been stated.
No, it's not. And part of it is because these two guys, they're implying throughout how well trained they are, right? How emotionally stable they are. The guy's jogging, they're watching a news report of themselves. They don't have any reaction to it. He's getting happy birthday messages from his parents. No, they don't. They're like what we always thought astronauts were supposed to be like, was like,
steady.
Right. Nothing's going to rattle this person. Nothing raises their heart rate.
As opposed to the ones we really have where they'll fly in a rage and punch fans for questioning them, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, and he really is going to go on a walk, which is just like, the stakes are so high, and he's out there all on his own.
Yeah. Which is interesting. Yeah. Oh,
and seeing this in the cinema as well, like a big screen in an old movie theater.
Apparently they projected originally on Cinescope, which was like the screen slightly, it was like the original IMAX, the screen slightly bent around you. So you can imagine watching it in like a, kind of an immersive environment. It's crazy.
Well, and it became a cult hit with the youth, right? It got panned a little bit. The reception was mixed.
There were some reviews that thought it was pretentious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whee!
Yeah.
And then, then the hippies found it.
Right.
I mean, what other bit of cinema in the mid 60s could you grab that would be quite as trippy as this? There's nothing. I mean, there are maybe equals like El Topo or whatever. Yeah. The Holy Mountain, like stuff like that. But boy, this is right up there. Yeah.
Well, partly it came out of Kubrick thought that there were no good science fiction movies. A good science fiction film had not been made yet, which by his standards might be true. That's in 1968.
Well, how many truly great science fiction movies have there even been, though? Period. There's a lot I like, but as far as masterpieces go,
right. It is few and far between.
Jason X.
Well, now see, perfect example of one I love, but would you call it a masterpiece? I thought that movie was a banger. I love
that movie. Rocks. Yeah, that movie rocks.
I have not seen it.
Well, Alien is
certainly
legitimate. Aliens too, legitimate.
Aliens
what are some others that you would say?
Man, I
all-time
watched
great science fiction.
The new Dune film is up there. I think.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Kevin disagrees.
No, that's all right.
He can disagree as much as he wants. It's okay to be wrong.
Hiss, boo, hiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those funny genres where, and it's like horror too, where there's a thin layer of great movies, and then it falls off pretty precipitously.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up what.
And my favorite movies, the science fiction movies that I respect the most are sort of almost not even science fiction movies. Children of Men, which I think people consider science fiction, it's not really even science fiction. Stalker.
12 Monkeys is pretty good.
12 Monkeys.
Stalker is a fantastic one.
Yeah. Yeah. What else is out there? I thought Annihilation was pretty great, personally.
See, now I haven't seen that one. It's been recommended to me a whole bunch of times, but
it's pretty good. It's better than the book. It's a few rare cases better than the book, in my opinion.
See, we're back in the fisheye now, and they're
this troubleshooting thing they're doing, right? They're searching each circuit, and it's like broadcasting it on their little. It's
such a cool effect. Yeah. And then Hal has to admit that he made a mistake, or doesn't admit it, but
he sort of says, "Hey, Hals don't mess up, man. That's human error. Humans did something." Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going through the all-time. This list puts The Matrix higher than 2001.
That's insane.
That's insane. These clickbaits. I mean, you got Blade Runner.
Blade Runner
is a banger.
Yep.
2040 Blade Runner 2049 is top notch, also in my opinion.
It is. It is.
Okay, so it's my turn to eat shit. I didn't enjoy 2049 very much. It was all right. I thought it was trying way too hard to be pretty at the expense of everything else.
Okay.
And it was very pretty.
It was pretty. Yeah, it was definitely something nice to look at.
This list puts A Clockwork Orange in under sci-fi. I don't agree with that at all. Yeah. It's such a strange genre because it's this bucket for everything.
Yeah. Clockwork Orange is like speculative, but not. I don't consider it science fiction.
This list does put 2001 all the way at the top. So all right, respect.
There you go.
Yeah, here's what it says about the movie. Stanley Kubrick's 1968 epic existentialist art house addition to the space exploration genre may be light on actual story. Well, read the book. But it's way high on hypnotic splendor, standing tall as one of the major artistic works of the 20th century. Divided into four main parts: The Apes, Heywood Floyd's Mission to the Moon, the Discovery 1's Jupiter flight, which we're in now, and the LSD finale. The film's plot, in an extreme nutshell, is about an alien monolith that is discovered by astronauts and how it leads to a close encounter of the third kind and beyond. Oh, it's also about the evolution of man from ape to something else. Yeah. It's so cool.
Yeah. Now, I love this conversation that they're having. They have this conversation with Hal, trying to figure out, okay, well, what happened? Because Hal had predicted that there was a fault in this unit. He'd said it was going to fail in 72 hours, and it was a totally reliable number. Turns out there's nothing wrong with it. So they're like, hey, man, what's going on here? And Hal blames humans, says it's human error. They tested against another Hal back at base, and this Hal didn't predict that fault. So this is where I'm wondering, guys, do you think Hal made a mistake, or this is intentional strategy on Hal's part? What's going on with this?
I think it's extremely intentional when it's matched up against the rest of the film.
Okay, yeah. I do too, but it's sort of like is his chess move so far ahead that he knows this is going to pit them against him? I'm not sure what Hal thinks he's going to get accomplished with this.
I can't precisely recall the book, but my reading of it right now would be something to the effect of it's possible that Hal has some information that they don't have, because didn't you say earlier that they don't know that
they don't know where they're going?
Know that
Hal has heard rumors.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Right. And so, because could it be that Hal is picking up a signal that they're not hearing?
Oh, that could be. That could be.
You've got this giant satellite on the back of this ship that Hal essentially is the ship.
Right.
Unclear. It's unclear, but that's the beauty of the film.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is part of a more long-term plan, but Hal doesn't know yet that this conversation is going to happen. This is about to have the most plotty moment of the entire film.
Right. And it's so eerie when you realize that he's reading their lips and they're trying to hide from the ship that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And in Alien, they call the ship Mother. And of course that all goes back to Hal, and there's Hal's creepy eye.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very unsettling.
It happens. The turn happens so suddenly.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, we're exploring outer space. To this ship might want to
ship.
Yeah.
Well, what does that stand in for a metaphor?
The internet.
The internet.
Well, I don't know if Kubrick would have read it, but there was always The Eighth Tower by John Keel, right?
I don't know that. What's eighth? What is that?
The whole thesis was him really exploring his Fortean. He was always a Fortean. He was of the Fortean School of Investigative Journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Why are frogs falling from the sky? What explains all these bizarre phenomenon? And then use really exotic theories to make people think about what the result was.
Mm-hmm.
But the Eighth Tower itself was the idea that some sort of alien intelligence, not extraterrestrial alien, but alien as an unknowable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was sending us information through psychedelic experience, through dreams, through all these other non-physical interfaces so that we would build it. It's a sort of, it's a not fat brain, Rocco's basilisk sort of thing.
Right.
Like, what if that theory wasn't a bunch of pretentious pseudo-intellectual posing?
Right. Interesting. So it's called the Eighth Monument, you said?
The Eighth Tower.
Eighth Tower. I think there's been so many people throughout history who have claimed to get these kinds of downloads one way or another. We're going to talk about Philip K. Dick next month on our show. And he had that download. If anybody did, he had. But throughout history, you've got these people
repeatedly,
right? And so what is that? And I think it gets explained away much to kind of my disappointment and the detriment of everybody, I think.
Sure. People are way too dismissive of it. I'm not saying that there's a literal library of the soul, some Akashic records stuff, but there's some sort of phenomena there.
It does seem to be that people can get information from outside for sure. And so, the Rocco's basilisk thing is funny. I think it's funny that you call it fat break, because it is sort of a creepypasta. But also, and people will say, like, as soon as you hear about Rocco's basilisk, you'll never be able to sleep again or whatever.
Why? Because some robot in the future is going to punish me for not giving it my power? Buddy, I already believe in angels and demons. What's this thing gonna
what
do?
are you going to do to me? Well, there is a thing where there's a sort of like the Reddit AI atheist types will reverse engineer religion all the time.
Constantly.
Yeah, that's like what simulation theory is. It's like, bro, the Gnostics were talking about the exact same thing 2,000 years ago. So nothing, you just made that person have a keyboard and a mouse. That's the only difference that you made. Yeah. Oh, now I forgot there's an intermission in this movie.
And as much as I don't want to bow out, I need to actually head to work here.
Hey,
so
somebody's
bad
got to do it.
timing.
Oh yeah,
That's all right. No,
having a great
Dexter,
point.
that was great, man. It's really good to do this with you. We'll send you the file after, and you can put this out wherever you want. Do you want to throw in your plugs? Where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So just for the Timeline Earthers who are watching this, please stick around. Please hear what the guys have to say about the rest of this. For anyone who's not in my audience but wants to listen to my cut of it, it'll be on the Timeline Earth podcast feed under the tag Scarlet Thread Society. It'll be very easy to find. Look for the release at the end of the month.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, Dexter.
That was so much fun, man.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah,
we'll bring this on home.
Man. Yeah.
Don't work too hard, man. Later.
I wouldn't dare.
All right, man. You good?
Yeah, and we are The Art of Darkness. I'm Kevin Kautzman. This is my partner in crime, Brad Kelly. We are at artofdarkpod.com, patreon.com/artofdarkpod. Every episode we do an extra 20 or 30 minutes at the end. We're going to sit here in the dark, and that's for After Dark. Those episodes are for the Patreon subscribers. Please support the show if you enjoy what we're doing. We've never done this type of episode before.
It's not our usual
We're
thing,
going to
really.
release it. I think we could do a couple of watch-alongs a year.
It's fun to do. Yeah,
man.
That's cool.
Yeah. Back it up with a little bit of
We'll always be doing the core episodes. You know why people started listening to us. We'll always be doing those. But a fun little thing like this every once in a while. It's fun for us, and hopefully it's fun for other people too.
Always be coring on Art of Dark Pod. Who's up next? We've got somebody on Wednesday with Hugulian, right?
Yeah, Hugulian's coming back. We're going to talk about Robert Aikman, who's the author of.
I don't know anything about Robert Aikman.
I'm not even going to tell you anything.
Just wipe it.
Yeah,
Robert Aikman. I don't know who he is. He's an author.
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
that's all you need to know. Yeah, we're doing him, and then I don't think it's spilling the beans too much to say that we're going to have James Ellis, the host of the Great Hermetics podcast, and who just had a book come out actually. So we'll get to talking about that a little bit. Also, he's doing a series on my favorite book of all time, Meditations on the Tarot, for Patreon. I think it's half Patreon, half free. He's coming on. We're going to do a darkroom episode on G.I. Gurdjieff.
The great, who famously said, "Man is food for the moon."
Perfect. Yeah.
Theremin, cue theremin noises. What's it mean? I was thinking about it earlier. Okay. Well, man is food. What does that mean? Maybe we are food.
I literally, we were driving. Last
we're
night.
back.
I saw the full moon. I thought the same thing. We're food for the moon. What does
that mean? And Dexter's great. That was fun. We've got to have him on for a darkroom episode.
We'll find something. Yeah, he's a great dude. And I was on an episode of his talking almost strictly about the tarot, and we had a blast. It was so much fun. He's got a great show. Scarlet Thread Society is great. Yeah, right.
Scarlet Thread Society, and I think we have a link to your tarot episode up on our website, which is at Art of Dark Pod.
Yes, we do. Yeah, that is out there. So yeah, he's a good dude, and hopefully we've got some collaborative efforts in the future. Part of the extended, the extended little network we're building
an
here.
Interesting place for the intermission, because you've set up. They've got 72 hours.
It's like, in a way, from the typical like thriller standpoint, it is the most intensive moment. Like, because it's actual suspense.
The stakes have been set up.
Right.
Yeah, you're not leaving the theater.
No.
You want to know what is going to happen. What is going to happen to this guy?
Yeah.
He's got his parents. It was just his birthday.
Yeah.
The lives of the crew are in their hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've lost communication with Earth.
Right.
Yeah, and it's all been done without. There hasn't been a moment where it's, oh no, there's no jump scares. Yeah, now here we've got his fellow is moonwalking, or spacewalking.
Just for a quick bit of plot, I think what they're doing is they're going to put the piece back in place and see if it fails, to test whether Hal was right or not. But if it fails, then they're out of comms. Right. So which is unsettling. But they're trying to prove whether Hal.
So they still have. Do they still have?
They still have comms, right? They still have comms right now because that unit hasn't failed. But if it does fail, they'll be out.
It's the second unit that they're putting in. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. But now what happens is, boom, there he goes.
Right. Hal takes the pod, boom, 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 and all these weird jump cuts into the eye. Oh,
Yeah.
And then jettisons him out into space.
Right.
And
Terrifying.
he's done. Yeah.
Terrifying.
He's done.
The pod goes flying. He goes flying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Game over, man. Game over.
That is one of those fears. That's such a deep fear, but it's like almost like a new deep fear, because when you're afraid of a shark, you're afraid on like a Jungian level of underwater monster, right? Like humans have been afraid of that for 3 million years, whatever. But the whole space thing, we didn't even really know what space was as a species until like, 200, a few hundred years ago. We never had any conception of it. So it's like this new archetypal fear. It's very strange.
So he's a hero because he goes to the pod. He's going to go and try and rescue his
try and catch him.
pal.
Yeah.
And you can't tell if his heartbeat has risen. Clearly it is. You don't know if he's dead or not now. He's just going through. And it caution explosive bolts. Okay. What does that mean?
I don't know. Yeah. Does it mean that's what they put on the pods, the NASA pods and things? But
all right, now he's going to try and rescue his colleague.
Yeah. The tension is running a little bit high.
Yeah, such a fascinating movie, and you can see how many tropes this created, how many things that other science fiction films riff on.
Yeah. You know, one thing I love about this, for all of the very careful choice of very intense music throughout, no music in this scene.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Just the emptiness of space. Because I think he's trying to accentuate that loneliness. Because if that guy dies, it's heroic to go and try and save this guy. But partially it's a self-preservation thing. Because if that guy dies, how vulnerable are you now? Right?
Sure.
He's the only thing you've got around to help you. Yeah. And he's dead now, I think. I mean,
you can't tell because it looks like the hose may have come off, but that you can't quite tell what the nature of the suit is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. These
Here we go.
Pod designs are interesting.
August 19th, writing all day, 2,000 words exploring Jupiter's satellites. Dull work. September 7th, Stanley quite happy. We're in fantastic shape. He has made up a 100-item questionnaire about our astronauts. For instance, do they sleep in their pajamas? What did they eat for breakfast, etc.? That's great. That's the kind of detail that sets Kubrick aside.
It really does. And it pays off. You see, and it pays off. That's one of the lessons of that meticulousness. We're not watching any other science fiction movie from 1968 and glorying in how well done it is.
Not at all.
No.
September 8th. Upset stomach last night. Dreamed I was a robot being rebuilt. In a great burst of energy, managed to redo 2 chapters. Took them to Stanley, who was very pleased, and cooked me a fine steak, remarking, Joe Levine doesn't do this for his writers. You get the idea they had a lot of fun, right?
Sure.
This is good. As he's chasing down his colleague here. September 26th, Stanley gave me Joseph Campbell's analysis of Myth, the hero with a thousand faces to study. Very stimulating.
Yeah. You imagine that book fell on Hollywood like a black pyramid from the sky.
Yes,
it really did. I mean,
yes, it did.
People knock it now. People want to pose Joseph Campbell as some kind of pseudo now, but like there is value in articulating things in a way that can be digested, which is what I think Joseph Campbell did. I mean, he took Jungian ideas and all these other ideas and consolidated them. And yeah, it changed putting all that stuff on paper, all these subtleties, that changed how people approach writing in a lot of ways. Star Wars is profoundly influenced by unashamedly, and thereby everything that came after it in Hollywood.
September 29th. Dreamed that shooting had started. Lots of actors standing around, but I still didn't know the storyline.
That's like having that dream where you're back in school and you have a test, but you didn't study. It's the same. It's the same thing. Yeah.
He's still trying to rescue his buddy here, and
yeah, it's seeming kind of hopeless. But maybe he just wants to recover the body, even,
Well,
out of a respect kind of thing.
yeah, it's so interesting. Is he dead? Isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Brad, I would hope that you would come after me in the pod.
Yeah, I'd probably come after you in the pod. I mean, I would have said, Kevin, don't ever get in the pod to begin with. That's what I would have tried to tell you. But
I think I might be Hal. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due.
I like how sloppy it is him trying to catch his friend. Like, I like that the pod, it's like it's not made for this. So he's trying to catch him, and it doesn't really. Right. It's like,
well, and that's such a wonderful inversion of the whole idea earlier. You have all these organic shapes earlier, and now you have this human shape that's being captured by this mechanical shape.
Yeah. Just intense focus.
He's a great actor. He
really is. Yeah. I don't know how he wasn't in a whole lot of sort of, movies that are still kind of watched and talked about, but he's very
such a striking face, and
he really is.
He's so intense. The intensity is something that once you've seen this film one time, it stays with you, and you remember, geez, I remember all of this. So then now we cut right back to the ship,
and now he's showing you the hibernating people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Which, and one thing that they said, one of the kind of setups of this was, these were normally they got on the ship and then went into hibernation, but this was like the first time they were put in hibernation first. And I guess the idea was to save resources, because this was the longest trip that they had taken thus far. And then Hal kills them here.
Oh, yes, right. Computer malfunction. I think that's going to be the name of this episode. Let me write that down real quick. Computer malfunction, the 2001 A Space Odyssey, Heart of Darkness, and with Dexter Paz episode. Let's see here.
Dexter De La Paz.
De La Paz, got it.
Function's critical. Good. So now he's killing Kaminsky and these other guys who were sort of the specialists. I think Bowman and Dave were sort of the pilots. They were the guys who were flying the ship. These guys were the guys who were supposed to be doing the science. And it makes and so Hal's apparently trying to stop all of this from happening. I guess stop contact with the monolith. It's not clear what his intentions are.
That, or he thinks that he's going to be the one who gets in contact with the monolith.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It does remind me a little bit. I've been doing some reading on CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, because I have some thoughts on it. And and I want to do some research on it. And one point the LHC went down, and some scientists legitimately claimed or wrote in a paper, maybe it was sardonic, but I think it was legit, that they thought that somebody from the future may have been retrocausally trying to interrupt the Large Hadron Collider because of the consequences of their research.
Woo!
It's a little bit of this, right? It's a little bit of the
science. Don't like that. Don't love that, Brad.
No.
Nope. Don't love that.
No.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Yeah.
Open the pod bay doors.
Open the pod bay doors. Yeah, he's starting to breathe heavy.
Yep. Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Yep.
I love all of the flashing on his face.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Yeah. Okay, there he says it.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating, because now we really are only left with one dude who's alive and a machine in the middle of deep space on the way to Jupiter.
Right.
And that's all we're left with for the remainder of the film in our minds.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we've gone from the savannah, the dusty savannah, or the desert fighting over water.
Yeah.
First Tool all the way to this point in a single film, and
Yeah.
man, oh man, and
Yeah.
you maybe you had a handful of something, maybe a handful of mushrooms. You're just coming up.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
oh god,
Yeah.
it's 1960, 66. This just came out.
Right.
You're in Madison, Wisconsin. You're studying sociology, and this is what you're watching.
Right.
Cracking. I saw this movie when I was a teenager. And I 100% not ready for this movie.
Nobody,
like
if you watched
15,
it says like the Talmud. You're not supposed to watch it till you're 40 or something. It's like,
sure.
I was the same way. I watched it when I was a teenager. Blew my friggin' mind.
Yeah, it has that quality.
Yeah. You know, he does start getting upset here and starts yelling at the computer as though that will actually accomplish anything, right? So he's yelling at how he's raising his voice, insisting that Hal let him in, which is a natural human response to another human, but not, to do it to a computer. You've sort of lost. I mean, I've yelled at my computer, so what am I talking about? But he's sort of losing the plot here. Yeah, and understandably so. I mean, the amount of pressure here is intense.
Is it a case where did he forget his helmet in his rush to get in to the pod?
Oh, I don't know. That could be.
Because he doesn't have his gloves and he doesn't have his helmet.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works. Whether he has it or not. I know he does. Obviously, he does end up getting in the ship. He did explain. There was a good bit of exposition too, where he and the other guy, when they were conspiring, they were talking in the pod, and they talked through exactly what they would have to do to shut Hal down.
Right.
Which is cool because then it starts to happen. And he doesn't have to explain anything. It's all been kind of set up before, which, it's kind of sort of screenwriting 101 sort of thing, but sure. It's still brilliantly handled here.
Well, and this is where, of course, Hal is not going to let him back in because they've clearly talked about it. Right. Now, does he let his pal's body go because he's dead? I think he does.
I think he does. Yeah. Because he's got to use the arms for other things.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, buddy. Off to grad school. Come back in 4 years.
We wish you luck. We really do.
Yep. Yeah. Good luck. You're going to make it. It's going to be all right. Just buy the dip, buddy. Buy the dip.
No, the flashing on the face thing is really cool because it is sort of reflecting like the inner status of his mind a little bit, right? He's very stoic on the front, and then there's these flickering and flashing, and
yeah. So now he has to dock with the ship, despite Hal not wanting him to.
Yeah, he has to go through the airlock, which apparently is like a whole different operation than going through the normal pod bay doors or whatever. Yeah. In the airlock, so this is like climbing in through the window, sneaking in after curfew.
I never want the algorithm to be that angry at me.
Oh my gosh.
I hope Elon buys Twitter pretty quickly because otherwise we might all be in trouble.
Yeah, Frank and Dave have been Frank, the guy Bowman here has just been shadow banned, so he can still get into the conversation.
Can you imagine if Twitter became sentient? If Twitter really is the vanguard of the future AI, we're doomed.
It is.
It will blow us up. It will.
It is. It makes decisions in like hive mind kind of way,
Right. Discourse. He has to manually find a way to get back into the ship.
Yeah. So he's got to operate the levers and the doors, which means he had to give his friend up. Yeah. And again no music, no sound. When they're outside anyway, when it's shooting in the pod, you get the diegetic sounds of like the air and stuff being in the pod. But when it's in space, there's no sounds, which is beautiful.
The contrast of the tension in the scene with the pace of everything as well is so unusual. There's nothing else like it.
It's almost from a writer's standpoint. It's like I admire the steady-handedness of this because for me, the proclivity would be to speed everything up now, to make everything in the form to match the function that like the heart rate's up. So now everything's got to be happening fast. And Kubrick does not do that. You know, he keeps it like this is just a normal, like it's the same pace at which they went to fix the thing in the first place. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is so cool. And then he has to back the thing back in.
Yeah. Yep. And they show all of it. He doesn't just go, went to the airlock. It shows the whole,
right.
It shows the whole
any
process.
other director would have cut by now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, implied everything that happened before, and he would have gotten splashed against the door and been like, you know, what a rush, or you know, something.
He would have flashed back and thought about his wife.
Right. Oh yeah. That's the other thing that's really interesting about this film. There are connections to people through video calls or whatever, but there's no sentiment at all.
That's a great point. Yes. Yeah, the humans themselves are void of sentiment. Even that call between the first gentleman, what was his name? Not Bowman,
Haywood
the other
Floyd.
guy.
Yeah.
Floyd and his daughter. It just reeks of
very perfunctory.
inauthenticity. Yeah. There's a feeling of they're all mediated. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. And here he is, and now he's got to shut Hal down.
Right.
And what else can Hal do at this point?
Yeah, that's a good point. Is like, what are his other defenses? I mean, he probably could leak all the air out or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, here you go. Here are the explosive bolts pay off, right?
Yeah. And you know, this is because he gets blown into the airlock. This is kind of intense. Yeah. This is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, so this makes me think, Kevin, like, what are your in terms of artificial intelligence, like, where do you stand in all this? Are you like, oh, it's a good thing, we should be automating all this stuff?
No, it's the Antichrist.
It's the Antichrist. Okay.
I think
good.
No, I think it's complicated. I think, what do you mean by AI? I think when they say AI, I think a lot of the time they're talking about like a giant spreadsheet with skip logic.
That's my quote is a sufficiently advanced spreadsheet is indistinguishable from so-called AI. But I definitely agree. But like the notion, most of the time when a company is saying they use artificial intelligence to solve a problem, it's just that they have a spreadsheet that's really sophisticated. That's really, or database. That's really.
But if we're talking about AI in terms of
like an artificial general
comes
intelligence
to life in a way that's that would pass the Turing test and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It starts to become quite alarming, because if that thing gets loose in the so-called cloud or whatever else it is, it could be disastrous for humanity. Never mind the fact that the company or the organization that would has the potential to develop the thing first could have this extraordinary power advantage. Which could lead to all sorts of problems.
They don't even have to be that far ahead, right? You could be a month ahead on this, and you develop it and you use it to wipe out all of the competition. And then, at some, if you're talking about literally a self-evolving intelligent system, right, that can make itself smarter over time, you're talking about something that first is as smart as a person in all of the ways a person is, and then rapidly is smarter than all of us put together.
Sure.
And
then is also sense. One would assuming
you can
to be an intelligence, it would need to be aware of its own potential for its own demise.
Right.
In which case it would possibly feel the onus to protect itself at all costs.
Right.
And if it decided that humanity was a threat, then you're down that rabbit hole. I haven't really read up on the most recent thinking about it.
I did read Nick Bostrom, the guy who formulated the simulation theory, but also wrote a book called Superintelligence about the various routes in which this could take and his sort of concerns. And the one thing he said was sort of interesting is like, one of the things that people have pushed back against this is like, well, if it starts to seem too dangerous, we'll just unplug, metaphorically, we'll just unplug it. And his point was, if it's smart enough, it's going to know to hide how smart it is from you. Right. Which is an interesting thing, right?
What if you build the thing and it's already ahead of you, tricking you because you've unleashed it already.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
really,
And-
really strange.
Yeah,
to
and then
think about.
you're going to try to outsmart it. You literally made it to be smarter than you, and you're going to outsmart it. It's just there's something to it to me that's like there's like kind of a cognitive food chain, right? We won the physical food chain, right? Became sort of the apex predator by being smarter than everything else, right? So
Yes.
we're smarter than lions. That's why they're in cages and we're not, They kill us every once in a while, but on the whole. So with the whole artificial general intelligence thing, it's like, yeah, you know what? The one thing we got going for us is that we're real smart. What we should do is make something smarter than us. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Maybe we weren't that smart after all. Maybe we
Right.
should have, stuck with our incense in our churches and our funny rituals. Yeah, and he's shutting Hal down now slowly. I love this design.
Piece at a time.
My mind
gorgeous.
is going, Dave.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
I'm going to read a little more from Arthur C. Clarke's
please do.
diary of the making of this, of the genesis of it.
Yeah.
October 2nd. Finished reading Robert Ardrey's African Genesis. Came across a striking paragraph which might even provide a title for the movie. Why did not the human line become extinct in the depths of the Pliocene? We know that, but for a gift from the stars, but for the accidental collision of Ray and Jean, intelligence would have perished on some forgotten African field. True, Ardrey is talking about cosmic ray mutations, but the phrase, a gift from the stars, is strikingly applicable to our present plot line. October 6th. Have got an idea which I think is crucial. The people we meet on the other star systems are humans who were collected from Earth 100,000 years ago and hence are virtually identical with us.
Ooh.
October 8th. Thinking of plot all morning, but after a long walk in the sun, we ended up on the East River watching the boats. We dumped all our far-fetched ideas. Now we're settling for a galactic Peace Corps and no blood and thunder. October 17th. Stanley has invented the wild idea of slightly fag robots who create a Victorian environment to put our heroes at ease. So we see that later at the end of the movie with the final. Yeah. So these goofy ideas, these throwaway ideas that he and Arthur C. Clarke are batting around, they make their way into the film.
They do. I love hearing about Kubrick's method, which is so trial and error-y. So just like, yeah, maybe that'll work. Let's think about that. Maybe that'll work. Let's think about that. Right. Really just hunting them all down. Sending out all of his dogs, hoping one of them will come back with dinner kind of thing. It's really...
Yeah,
it's really impressive.
Daisy, Daisy,
Oh, God.
give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy. I can sing like Hal. Oh,
yeah, you and Hal have a similar singing voice. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's such. Oh, yeah. Thank you. It won't be a stylish marriage. Yeah, well, then the Robitussin is really
right.
kicked in.
Oh my
this
God! Yeah, if you drank the Robitussin, you're like, am I hearing this right? Like,
is the robot singing?
Wait, what?
Oh my God, it's so intense, and he knows in a funny way he's killing this life form in a funny way. He's hobbling himself too. It's not good.
Yeah.
Of course, and then Dr. Floyd appears.
You get the pre-recorded briefing, right?
You get the briefing. Yeah. Right. Where it's revealed to him what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They weren't briefed before sending them out into deep space. That's such a great irony. There's this bomb under the table. We, as the audience, kind of know something's up.
Right. We know that it has to connect to what happened before. Yeah.
Right. So, and you have all these ironies, right? They think the crew is going to be revived. The crew is not revived. Mm-hmm. Now he has to go and confront whatever this thing is out in deep space.
Yeah.
And he's alone.
He's alone.
There's never been a man more alone than Bowman here.
Right. Million? Is it millions of miles? Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of miles. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a science guy. Let's see. Distance to Jupiter. Oh, yeah. It's 510 million miles. Woo! when they're at their closest, the distance is only 365 million miles.
Oh, that's no big deal.
Here we go, Jupiter, and beyond the infinite.
They kept a little bit of that thunder. They kept a little bit of that blood and thunder, and beyond.
They sure did. They sure did.
But it
Brad, I'm going to keep listening. You vamp for a second. I gotta use the.
For sure. So yeah, now we're actually
take an intermission.
Oh yeah, well hey, that's all right. So yeah, now we're looking at Jupiter. We're in movement 4. We're seeing the monolith actually fly through space, which is an interesting move. I think we're looking at Jupiter, and I believe that's Neptune. All right, we've got that crazy druidic, creepy music again. I might have to make that my cell phone ring. It's very unsettling. And we've got the Discovery ship. Now we know Dave is out all by himself on this thing. Like Kevin was saying, the loneliest man of all time. Yeah, hey, there's 6. The rocket boosters are 6 hexagons. Wish we had Dexter on to explain to us what he thought that meant. Because that seems like some demonic stuff right there. Yeah. So now the monolith takes on this character that I don't know what to make of it. Now that it's flying around, if it can fly around, why did it need to send out a signal is my question with this. But there's also a thing, this is a thing that science fiction fans, I think, can sometimes make the mistake of trying to explain everything rationally. And you see this at the end. This is where the end of the movie messes with people so hard, in my opinion. It's like, okay, you've got this extremely speculative scenario. You've run this plot, out into the beyond the infinite, and everybody wants to
beyond the infinite.
Yeah. And a lot of people want to be like, well, it all has to make sense. This whole move has to make sense. So what's the room about? What's the Star Child about? What's the model? Like, it doesn't. Some things are just a vibe. You know what I mean?
It's true, and you can enjoy this film without ever reading the book.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is one case where film is a little bit better than the book. It depends what they're equally good at doing different things.
I think they belong together.
Yeah. I think that's probably true.
That was the whole idea. I mean, they conceived of it together.
Yeah.
The film can do things that the book can't, and the book can do things that the film can't. And if you haven't read the book, I would encourage you to read the book, then watch the movie, or vice versa. It's a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing on this inability to fully excavate what do things mean. I mean, we kind of started this part of the reason behind the scenes sort of back channel why we wanted to do this was Dexter. We were talking with Dexter, and he wanted to kind of talk about the symbology of stuff. And I think we've done that a little bit here, hopefully in an interesting manner. But the one thing that's really important about symbology, symbols, and all of that, if you can fully understand what a symbol means, quote unquote, it's not actually a symbol in the proper use of that term, in my opinion. The symbol, an actual symbol, always has sort of a mystery at its core. Right. It always, and this was a sort of a Jungian idea. I'm not making this up. This was how Jung defined a symbol. It was stuff you could get a sense of. You could say things about it. You could circumambulate it, but you could never quite get to its center. And so you have a movie that's as powerfully symbolic as this, trying to get down to the functional center of it. You're never quite going to get there. The virtue in it is the attempt more than it is actually arriving at it, I think.
Sure. Well, and now he's in the pod, and all of these different planets are aligning. You've got the moon and Jupiter and all the rest of it. And it's going to bring us into this incredible psychedelic finale, unlike anything else in cinema. Yeah, full stop.
Yeah. Now we're just rotating that monolith. It looks so trippy. And again, putting yourself into 1968, sitting in the theater. You know what I mean? You've never seen, no movie has ever been anything close to this before.
Stanley Kubrick as a master shape rotator.
It's true. It's true.
You got the word cell Arthur C. Clarke, and then you got shape rotator Stanley Kubrick.
It's definitely true. Oh man. Oh yes. That look on his eyes, on his face too. Perfectly acted. Just like
as he ends up inside the vortex of the psychedelic vortex.
Yeah.
He's being shown something again that no one has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Or is he being shown the equivalent of what Moonwatcher saw?
I think that's what it is. I think it's, and again, I don't want to try to explain it too much, but yeah, I think he's seeing what humans are now ready for.
Right.
Like humans,
humans
were ready to know how to kill each other or use the phone as a weapon. And now they're ready to see whatever this is. And it's probably beyond what you and I are and other people are ready for. But I think the only thing you can really relate to it would be some kind of religious visionary experience.
He's trying to give you. Did I read? I can't remember in our reading. Did Kubrick do drugs? I don't think that he did.
I think the official story is he didn't. And whether
the official story.
Yeah. I'm not saying I think he did even, but like, But yeah, this is
it just goes on and on and on and on too.
It goes on for a really long time. It's great.
Yeah. it is fantastic. It's just this like, and again, you're in the cinema and what am I seeing? What does this have to do with the guy at the beginning? Why? What? I thought this was a space movie and now it's turned into this kaleidoscopic. And then
I will tell you, this is not different than some aspects of the DMT experience.
Yeah,
for some
I'll back
people.
that up.
For some people, there's a passing. There can be a sense of passing through. This is like you're getting sort of rocketed through this geometrical, ever shifting dynamic, but it has a focused sort of center to it, like this does. Yeah,
it's very cool.
It's very intense. Now it's black and white ish. Yeah.
It becomes like an art film.
Oh, it really is.
It's always an art film.
Yeah, like a high budget experimental, like you're in college and somebody shows you this on a projector in the film lab, except done with an incredible budget and exquisite eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, now you've got this sort of Milky Way imagery. Now, Christopher Nolan tried to do a similar thing with Interstellar. What did you think about Interstellar, Kevin?
I don't remember it.
Okay, well,
which is how he tells you what I think. Yeah.
I think it's pretty good. I think I'm not a fanboy of it necessarily, but I definitely think it had its moments. I think where it fell down a little bit. I think where it fell down a little bit was when he tried to recreate this sort of psychedelic experience. He tried to have this sort of same moment, and it didn't.
For the record, all of the times that I talk about how Dune, the new Dune, kind of fails, for me, it doesn't hit a home run.
Yeah,
it's a solid double. When I say the film itself is not psychedelic, this is what I mean.
Right.
And do I think that Villeneuve was going to subject normies to, a 20-minute psychedelic breakdown in that movie? No.
Not.
Do I think he should have? Yes.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm hoping, this is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the second volume of that film, that's how it opens. It's just like intense psychedelia for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, something.
It's a wonderful film. I've watched it twice. I'll probably watch it again. I'm a big fan. I like it. I just, that one gripe that I have really sits in my craw because it's at the center of the whole plot. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. So now he's moved to this imagery that is starting to seem like amniotic or something, right? It's gone from being like interstellar cybernetic video game.
It looks like a lava lamp.
Well, it's more lava lampy. To me, it feels like you're in the womb or something.
Right. And that's been
and then you've got this clear sperm imagery
running through the whole thing. Yeah. It has and that's one of the most the motif of this story is this idea that the humans and then merged with whatever this intelligence is are giving birth to the Star Child.
Right.
And then at the end of the book, the Earth, all of the countries of the Earth launch nukes at the Star Child.
Right.
And the Star Child just shrugs them off.
Right.
And descends to Earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't exactly know what it means.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have to mean. Yeah,
oh my God! And then we have these tesseracts or whatever they are. These crazy shapes. This dude tripped. I don't buy it. This dude tripped.
Yeah, it's hard to think about.
He took some notes. He went on Arrowhead.
He talked
to some people.
He talked to some acid heads. Well, and
he's
with the level of
England, he had to be tripping.
With the level of research he did, like he reaches out to Hilton. What will you be doing in 2001? So he can build his space. He clearly, you imagine he would go to some acid heads at the very least, and at the very least, ask some questions. Go to whoever did Pink Floyd's light shows early on. And
absolutely, it's Dr. Floyd.
Yeah,
right.
Interesting. Yeah.
Let's do a little more from the diary. We only have about 20 minutes left in the film.
Flying into this false colored scene here.
Yeah,
which is the savannah, I think.
Yes, we're coming full circle.
I think,
indeed,
or it's supposed to imply that anyway.
Yeah, it's reminding you of the first part of the film. Yeah. November 20th, this is Arthur C. Clarke's diary. Went to Natural History Museum to see Dr. Harry Shapiro, head of anthropology, who took a poor view of Ardrey. Then had a session with Stan arguing about early man's vegetarian versus carnivorous tendencies. Stan wants our visitors to turn man into a carnivore. I argued that he always was. Back at the Chelsea Hotel, phoned Ike Asimov to discuss the biochemistry of turning vegetarians into carnivores.
Huh.
What a day he's calling Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
I want to live like
Leonard
this.
Cohen's getting a blowy. Down below, Dylan Thomas has just had 16 shots of whiskey.
Dylan Thomas is already dead.
No, I know. In the theater of the
spiritually
Chelsea,
in the Chelsea Hotel. Yeah.
Mind.
Oh man, we got to go. We have to visit New York and go visit Chelsea Hotel. That'd be fun.
Pilgrimage at some point.
We should do. November 21st. Read Leakey's Adam's Ancestors. Getting rather desperate now, but after 6 hours discussion, Stan had a rather amusing idea. Our ETs arrive on Earth and teach commando tactics to our pacifistic ancestors so that they can survive and flourish. We had an entertaining time knocking this one around, but I don't think it's viable. Well, that's what ends up happening. The monolith is the thing that teaches them how to use weapons. Yeah.
Right. But they went in a much subtler, generalized kind of way, right?
Right.
Which I think works way better.
I got a few more here. This is November 22nd, called Stan and said I didn't think any of our flashback ideas were any good. He slowly talked me out of this mood, and I was feeling more cheerful when I suddenly said, what if our ETs are stranded on Earth and need the ape men to help them? This idea, probably not original, but what the hell, opened up whole new areas of plot, which we are both exploring. November 23rd. Stanley distracted by numerous consultations with his broker and wants my advice on buying ComSat. I don't know what that is. What is ComSat?
ComSat, communication satellite?
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. I don't know what it
could be. Maybe he's talking about like an investment, maybe.
Could be. Yeah.
Buy the dip.
Oh man, these visuals are actually. I haven't seen this part in so long.
They're crazy.
They're really good.
It's great, man.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing where
an orange landscape,
like a student
cool.
film. This would be your master's thesis, and you'd go off and have a position talking about composition in film or something.
Yeah. But it is definitely a callback to the beginning. It's some kind of like refracting that initial scene of human beings or whatever.
I got another one here. This one's good. December 10th. Stanley calls after screening H.G. Wells' Things to Come and says he'll never see another movie I recommend. Let me do one more because now we're in the Victorian chamber.
Yes.
December 21st. Much of afternoon spent by Stanley planning his Academy Award campaign for Dr. Strangelove. I get back to the Chelsea to find a note from Allen Ginsberg asking me to join him and William Burroughs at the bar downstairs. Do so thankfully in search of inspiration. And now
I
we're
like
in the
that.
strange room.
Oh, you know what I love is that they put the pod in there.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it isn't just him and the pod's in there, which is unsettling. There's that juxtaposition. Well, and then the floor too, but this whole scene is
It looks like a disco floor.
it
Like
does
you
look
almost
like a
expect it to
disco
light
floor.
up and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool. But it's appointed like a Victorian room, like he mentioned in that one note. So some of that survived. And Dave is clearly, tripping still.
Right. And then he sees himself
Sees
in the
himself
suit, or
in
does
the
he end up?
suit.
He's out there in the suit. All these uncanny effects.
And he's old. He's much older now. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pod's
This is
gone.
Mondo show don't tell stuff too.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is what people are kind of, I think, mystified by the ending of it, and rightfully so. And that's what Kubrick was trying to do. But, some of this stuff, it's like, okay, well, what does the ending mean? Well, okay, he passed through some kind of mind-expanding portal out in space, and now he's in some kind of weird afterlife thing. Like, in a way, I don't know that you need to explain it more than that. It's so beautifully rendered, right? It's like, yeah, I don't know. What does it mean? Well, what does it mean to, I don't know. What does it mean to like be born and then die? I don't know. It's
ComSat. So I'm reading here, ComSat headquarters, Washington, for launch of first commercial communications satellite, Early Bird. Yeah, and of course, Arthur C. Clarke ideated the notion of satellites.
Communication satellites. That's right. Yeah. This bathroom is awesome.
It reminds me of The Shining. The palette reminds me of The Shining bathroom as well.
If I were loaded and just had a lot of money to just blow on stuff, I would make our bathroom this exact bathroom.
And you'd have to get a leftist to write the instructions for you as a meme. 12 steps how to use this.
Each one is a full paragraph. Starts with a land acknowledgement. Your meme starts with a land acknowledgement, man. Just ease up.
It's a meme. Yeah, calm down. You don't even know where it's going to be, buddy. I saw on Twitter somebody posted, if Europeans started doing land acknowledgements, it would be a civil war within a year.
It's probably true.
Like in Europe.
Yeah.
Oh man! And then he sees himself eating.
Mm-hmm.
This is quite intense.
It really
April
is.
12th. Much excitement when Stanley phones to say that the Russians claim to have detected radio signals from space. Rang Walter Sullivan at the New York Times and got the real story, merely fluctuations in quasar CTA 102.
It's just quasar fluctuations. It's not really a big deal.
Yeah, let me call my guy.
Yeah. I'm not even sure what a quasar is exactly, but and that is him, right? It's the same actor who's been aged or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, not aged. They did makeup.
He's like looking at himself and
I had that experience in a sensory deprivation tank one time where I met an older version of myself. It was very unsettling. It felt very real.
Did he have money?
He didn't. No.
Oh, yeah.
He was doing like okay, but not. He was wearing like an old beat up red windbreaker. Looked like he was out for his daily walk.
I got to read a couple more of these. These are too good. You're talking about not the best part of town. April 19th. Went up to the office with about 3,000 words Stanley hasn't read. The place is really humming now. About 10 people working there, including 2 production staff from England. The walls are getting covered with impressive pictures, and I already feel quite a minor cog in the works. Some psychotic who insists that Stanley must hire him has been sitting on a park bench outside the office for a couple of weeks and occasionally comes to the building. In self-defense, Stan has secreted a large hunting knife in his briefcase. New York in the 60s. New York. Yeah, baby. Stanley Kubrick. We're going to make it. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, Stanley. Just bring that knife to work.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, this is May 1st. And of course, we're watching Bowman putter around in this room.
Yeah.
May 1st, found that a fire had broken out on the 3rd floor of the Chelsea. Waited anxiously in the lobby while the firemen dealt with it. Visions of the only complete copy of the manuscript going up in smoke.
Wouldn't that be? I mean, that was whose fault was this fire? I'd like to know the story of this fire. It was probably who knows? Who knows what it would have been in the late 60s? Allen Ginsberg was, dropped his kerchief on a candle or something.
See, he's eating again here. He's having a real meal.
Yes, that is a real meal.
He's got a little, like, what would you call it? Like little white wine. Oh, and he spills the glass.
Yeah, breaks the glass. It's an interesting production choice to make this floor like this, because I think the tendency would be to make it a normal room, right? The whole room would be that room.
Well, isn't the idea that the intelligence has
created this for him,
created a room for him to be comfortable in?
Yeah.
It shows him.
I think that's kind of the idea. Yeah.
Now he sees himself on his deathbed.
Mm-hmm.
June 7th.
Yeah, he's showing him his life.
Yeah, June 7th. Bad book review in the Tribune says I should stick to science exposition and am an amateur at fiction.
Dang. Sorry, Arthur C. Clarke. But maybe you should just stick to writing pop sci articles, okay?
Right.
Yeah. Let the real writers do it.
This is a really fun diary read. Anybody who's listening is interested in this. This is in cinephiliabeyond.org. You could just look up Arthur C. Clarke 2001 diary. And now our hero is seeing the monolith in the center of this strange Victorian room on his deathbed. He points toward it, eager to touch it, as the astronauts had done before him, as the apes had done before the astronauts. Yeah. He's breathing heavily. And the camera is going to pan into the monolith. There's the Star Child on the bed.
He's become the Star Child now. He had to die in order to be reborn. Yeah.
Oh man, we're about to have a baby next month. There's something very real about this.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Every child is a Star Child.
That's true. It's very true.
And then it pans through and it's boom, the moon. Boom, 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 boom. No timpani player has ever had more fun.
No. This music is so, how, a piece of art is effective is that you can parody it. And this music is almost like you can almost parody this music now. Like I could see this in like a Simpsons. I think it's used in a Simpsons episode.
This is riffed on
so intense
by so many cartoons and Family Guy. It's like by the time you see it, you've heard about it a million different ways. If you're a TV watching kid,
it's such a gorgeous shot though. You're matching, the Star Child with the planet itself, and
it's this idea of human consciousness rising to another level, which I think we've all been going through with the internet.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the read on that is it is the story of the evolution of humans, right? And beyond the infinite, out into this certain cosmological conception. And that's it. Film was directed and produced by Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
Banger.
And thank you, Dexter De La Paz, for doing this with us.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. Thanks to anybody who popped into the spaces. Looks like we had a little light turnout there. People popping in and out. It's a lot. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed it. And Brad, let's do another 20 or 30 minutes on the After Dark. We always do that.
Yes.
In Cinerama, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. What the hell did I just watch there, Larry? I don't know, Joe, but I'm going to go down to the bar and have a few scotches and try to forget about it.
Gotta go back to the office tomorrow.
Gotta go back to work tomorrow. I don't know what the hell that was, Larry.
Someone's got to sell that gabardine.
I like a good song and dance number myself.
Yeah. What's wrong with pennies from heaven? Well,
Well, so we're gonna, and on the After Dark, I think I want to read a few more things from Arthur C. Clarke's diary, and let's just unpack what we just saw. This is Art of Darkness. You can find us. You know where to find us: artofdarkpod.com, patreon.com/artofdarkpod. Brad, that was a lot of fun. We got to do another one of these movies at some point and see what people think about it. You have any final words before we go?
I don't think so. No. Yeah. Just have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing up. If you showed up live, we appreciate it.
Yeah. Try not to upset the algorithm.
Yeah. Do your best.
Daisy, Daisy.